Hafa Day, everyone, and welcome to the Guam Legislature. Appreciate you all being here. I know there are some inside, and it's kind of crowded now, so there are some also sitting outside, so I just like to bring that to everybody's attention. But today, this is the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture, and it's now called to order. Today's Thursday, June 20, 2024. The time is 5:10 p.m. In compliance with the open government law, notices for this public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal on June 13th and June 18th, 2024. Notice was also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets, and this hearing is being live streamed on the legislature's YouTube channel. I ask that individuals testifying first be recognized by the chair before speaking and begin by stating their name for the record-keeping purposes. So everything here is supposed to be transcribed verbatim, so if you could just pull those mics close, speak very loudly and clearly so that it's easy for us to transcribe. After all who have signed up to testify have testified, I ask that you stay for questions if you can, and then the senators will either make comments or ask questions to you regarding your testimony. So we have one agenda item today, that's Bill number 287-37LS. It's introduced by myself, Therese M. Terlaje, and Senator Chris Barnett, and it is an act to authorize the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to subdivide and enter into a commercial lease or license for a subdivided portion of Lot 7161-R1 in the municipality of Jigo for the operation of a raceway, and to repeal Public Law 34-142 in its entirety. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues, beginning with my Vice Chair, Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Telo Taitagui, Senator Roy Kanata, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Tom Fisher, and Senator Jesse Lujan. Sizos Masi, senators, for being here today. Thank you. All right, so before we hear from those signed up to testify as the bill's author, I'm going to briefly introduce the bill. Well, it's not going to be that brief, but it's going to be accurate and thorough, I hope. All right, so first of all, this is regarding Lot 7161-R1, which belongs to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. The Chamorro Land Trust Commission is a land reclamation program to rectify unjust, massive land takings after World War II and the displacement of Chamorro families. And there are 8,000 on the waiting list since 1995 for residential or agricultural leases. A lot of this is due to a lack of funding at the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, which impedes their ability to survey, register, put in infrastructure to those lands so that they are habitable. In 1998, the legislature required GIDA to grant tax credits for the creation of a raceway to the Guam tax credits to the Guam Racing Federation for the creation of a raceway. Later that year, the Chamorro Land Trust issued a 20-year license to the Guam Racing Federation for the property for Lot 7161-R1, provided that proceeds from the raceway activities would benefit the Survey and Infrastructure Fund of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and that license expired in 2018. After that, the legislature authorized a 50-year lease with the right of first refusal to the Guam Raceway Federation. Otherwise, anyone could lease that property for 50 years in commercial lease terms. That law prohibited further mineral extraction. According to the minutes of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission in 2019, there was no agreement, according under that law, for a new lease with the Guam Racing Federation because they did not agree on the rental value. They also, the Guam Racing Federation, submitted draft leases which continue to provide for mineral extraction contrary to the law. So that law, or the ability for the Guam Racing Federation to negotiate a lease, that 180 days after passage of the law has expired. So this bill, 287, proposes to authorize the Chamorro Land Trust to divide the 252 acres of this lot in Jigo, which is the current location of the raceway, and enter into a lease or license for the property or any subdivided portions of the property for a period up to 5 years. It was intended and is intended to be a more immediate pathway towards immediate use of a raceway. The bill provides that there will be no further mineral extraction, and it allows CLTC to enforce strict compliance and monitoring. It requires that the lessee or the licensee be a registered nonprofit. The property must be used for a raceway, related support facilities, and various outdoor events. Taxes, fees, and assessments levied on the property and its improvements shall be borne and paid for by the lessee. Participation rent is effective from the day of the lease or the license. And that's because we believe this is a revenue-producing endeavor if managed properly. It's not transferable, no subleases. It stipulates the terms for liability insurance are required. It requires the CLTC to approve any alterations of the property and all other terms to follow the CLTC commercial lease rules and regulations. The proceeds from this lease or license would go to the Chamorro Land Trust Survey and Infrastructure Fund, which provides for the subdivision, surveying, mapping, registration of tracts of residential and agricultural land in their inventory, for the construction of infrastructure to include roads, water, sewer, power, utilities, subdivision improvements, including storm drainage, curbs, street gutters, sidewalks, to service CLTC residential and agricultural tracts of lands. That is their mandate. I know that there's been some talk in the media about motorsport enthusiasts have not been treated the same when it comes to the use of public land. And because of that, I really want to make it very clear to all of those who are here, and I hope that the leaders of these racing organizations will make it very clear to their members what really has transpired on this property. These records are in the OPA audits, several different audits, including tax credit audits, financial audits of the CLTC, and the mineral extraction audit most recently. They're also available in the CLTC's minutes and records, and in our informational briefing report, which that hearing was held on June 23, 2023. These are the facts. $9 million in tax credits from the people of Guam for the construction of a raceway. Companies were engaged in the extraction of coral and minerals on the property, also received tax credits, some of them, and proceeds from the coral and mineral extraction. The licensing of the 252 acres of property was at a rate of $1,000 per month in year 3, and escalated to $4,000 per month at year 16 to year 20. This is equivalent to 1 cent per square meter per year and up to 4 cents per square meter per year toward the end of the 20-year license. They were exempt from real property taxes. The OPA stated that they were unable to accurately determine how much revenue was paid to GRF due to missing records. Revenue from mineral extraction. One of the accountings that I found for the period of 2001 to 2016, which is 15 years, provided that $4,680,1 186 cubic yards of material was extracted by Hawaiian Rock, Paris Brothers, and Smith Bridge. 4,680,000 cubic yards is approximately 6,552,000 tons. I looked this up, and one of those large ton trucks, dump trucks, can carry from 10 to 16 cubic yards, depending on the weight of the material. If you divide that by 10 cubic yards, the 4,680,000 total cubic yards per truck comes out to approximately 468,000 truckloads. Divide that by 15-year period of the lease, it's approximately 31,000 truckloads per year. Divide that by 365 days per year, it's approximately 85 truckloads per day, 365 days a year for 15 years. The Cltc received approximately $2.2 million for that period of 15 years at a rate of 25 cents a cubic yard for certain and 75 cents a cubic yard for the remaining time period. That $2 million divided by the 468,000 truckloads gives an average of $4.27 that went to the Cltc per truckload for the 468,000 truckloads over the 15 years up to 2016. When Dueñas, Camacho, and Associates prepared the Raceway Master Plan and applied to the Guam Land Use Commission for the conditional use permit, they estimated only 2 million cubic yards to be extracted versus the records that show 4 million cubic yards at a minimum were extracted between the 15-year period up to 2016. To my knowledge, to date, there is no reclamation plan that has been submitted to DPW or land management regarding this property. The OPA found in its Gov Guam tax credit audits that there were irregularities in the accounting of revenue from events, noting that the amount of lost revenue to the government of Guam is not known, and this is in regards to the Cltc properties. In July 2020, the DPW denied a permit renewal to Smith Bridge for grading on this lot on the following grounds: that the grading permit had expired in 2020, that the conditional approval under the Department of Land Management ended in 2018, that the grading permit issued was not equivalent to the extraction activities, that DPW required GLUC to include Guam Raceway Federation's plans for reclamation or restoration of this property, and all agency requirements, including handling storm runoff, fall protection along the perimeter of the quarry operation, and erosion control plan. OPA concluded in their audit, which was published in September 23, and this is on the mineral extraction audit, that GRF continued to allow mineral extraction activity beyond the cease and desist order issued by the Cltc in December 2019, that the CLT minutes show that GRF failed to meet its obligations with Cltc reporting requirements, rental payments, unauthorized use of the property by third parties, and seeking Cltc approval where required. So since the first right of refusal under the law that was passed in 2018 or 2019 by the Guam legislature has expired, and the notice of violation to cease and desist to stop mineral extraction, the notice of violation of the cease and desist to stop mineral extractions, and the Cltc evicted the Guam Racing Federation, it brings us to where we are today. In the interim, the Guam Racing Federation submitted to Cltc an unsolicited proposal for $1,000 per month or 1 cent per square meter per year for the 252-acre property through its new board. GRF's new board presented in September 2023 and again on January 2024. So this bill is intended to assist the Chamorro Land Trust to proceed, if it can negotiate a lease, to move forward without any further impediments, and that if there is able to open that raceway, then they are able to open it more expediently. Again, all these records are available to the public in the places that I cited earlier. All right, so again, it's my intention that despite the history of and the questioned activities, particularly the mineral extraction, that we are able to go forward, that we are able to provide a raceway, if we can do that safely, and we can do that to the approval of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. And that's what we're here today to try to do by passage of this bill. All right, if we could get AV to just put up a map. And I want to thank, I think this was Mr. Jones who provided one of these maps to some of us. So I did not have this one, but this is a map of an overlay of the Racing Federation's. This is the 7161-R1. And this is on the back road to Anderson, for those who are not familiar. All right, if we could put up, so underneath the red housing area is the back road, and then there's, it's hard to see now, but the drag strip, the long line, white wide line on the top, and then it ends in like what looks to be a quarry operation. All right, if we can go to the next slide. This is I was not sure of the date of that last map. This is another overlay from Google Earth. This one's dated February 2023. It says it's according to Google in December of 2021. And I'd just like to note this difference in the property topography. All right, next slide. This is just a different angle. So those white areas on the round oval on the bottom left, that's another one of the racing facilities. Most of those are on the left, and then the drag strip. All right. Next. This is from the other angle, showing towards the cliff line, looking towards the cliff line. Thank you. Next slide. All right, is this a video? You can play the video. This is the edge of the drag strip. This is a road that was created through the Chamorro Land Trust property to the Smith Beach property where this mineral was transported. Next video, please. This is the edge of the drag strip, or what I guess is referred to as the peninsula, given this name because it's at the top this rock. This is actually excavated. All right, next, is there any other video, map? All right, okay, that's it. Thank you. All right, this visual presentation is just meant to illustrate the major concerns on licensing the property and the extensive damage to the property that's taken place over the years. But we are looking forward in good faith to move forward. All right, so now we will hear from those who signed up to testify, and I've asked the Chamorro Land Trust to begin by being present. I want to thank them for being present, particularly their commissioners. The chairperson is here with us, Ms. Arlene Berdalio, and Commissioner Earl Garrido, Commissioner David Herrera. We also have the acting executive director of the Chamorro Land Trust, Joey Cruz, and other members of the Chamorro Land Trust office. So, Madam Chair, if you would like to proceed, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Speaker Therese, Terlaje, Senators. I am in favor of this bill 287-37. And I want to thank you for sponsoring this bill Speaker Terlaje and Senator Chris Barnett. I would like to also say that you know, I know the concerns of the public about the use of lot 7161-R1 as a raceway park, but I'm also concerned about the use of the land and the acreage of the land, 250 acres of land that it was licensed to the Guam Raceway organization. And I want to also say that we need to subdivide this lot. Because there's more need for land to be leased out to our Chamorro people. I want to make that clear. My husband, Paul Berdalio, the original sponsor of this bill, Chamorro Land Trust, and he was in favor too of the raceway. I remember that in the 70s. But I also feel that the people of Guam need land, especially now. Land is so expensive. And our poor people are suffering because they can't afford to buy land at this stage. So I would like to just say that, and I leave that determination for the legislature to pass this bill. It's up to you. Thank you.
Situs Masi, Mrs. Berdalio, thank you for your service on this commission. Mr. Garrido, Commissioner Herrera. Or would you like the executive director to go first? Mr. Garrido is pointing to you.
Dongkulo na si Zeus Masi nanu si David Babauta Herrera no dongkulo na agradecimento ni in tugi estina ma proponi na bill i 287-37 para hagu Madam Speakers and Senador Chris. Dan dongkulo na si Zeus Masi para todo Senador ni Mangay Kigwini no bena kadada esti ungan wa lalaba esti na maproponi i Bill 287 i po ma Therese it's more land trust ni po ma ipi itano za para sina mana set binitaw to mangarera. Gifino English no, my name is David Herrera and I'd like to thank all the sponsor or the author of the bill and the senators, and I would like to bring up my concern that I am in favor to subdivide the property to be used accordingly in a certain fashion. I am, however, more concerned of the primary mission and vision of the late Senator Paul Berdalio, that when he envisioned this back in 1975 or 1974, and it was ratified in 75 by the brother Ricky Berdalio. We all may remember, some of us may not remember or recall the major land condemnation performed by the United States Department of Defense, which is the Navy at that time, and the federal government. Now, we all know that the condemnation proceedings back then was very unfair. And we understand that out of the property in the Guam, about 1/3 was condemned. Many of us here have had their properties partially condemned. Many of us here have our families with properties that were entirely condemned, and we became landless in the late 40s and up to the 60s. So that being said, if you had a 10-acre or 10-hectare or 100-hectare, you would be living in a subsistence kind of environment back at that time. That would be the hunting and gathering stages back in the 18 and 1900s. That being said, in 1898, fast forward, when World War II came in, of course, the federal government wanted to enforce and enhance their position in the region, which is the Asia region, and Guam was a strategic location. Long story short, the federal government found out that the island of Guam had sufficient water, land, harbor, and space to condemn, to build up the military and protect the mainland United States. Not to protect Guam, but to protect the mainland, the motherland, Washington, D.C. Now that being said, fast forward to today. Here we are again today. Same. It's just that now it wasn't Japan that was the enemy, it's the mainland China. How threatening is China? Very much threatening. Would the federal government, in a contingent operation, condemn Guam and declare it martial law to protect the mainland U.S.? Of course. Those that understand the global operation, Guam is an unincorporated territory, and it can be condemned today if they want to. The federal government can do that. The reason why I'm saying the short history on this one is that it gave the vision of Senator Paul Buddazu to right the wrongs. I am neighbors with the Berdalio in Fena, up in Sumay and in Agate. Those are my neighbors. They had thousands of acres condemned, same as our family. So that being said, when I look back in the history from 1898 to 68, I understand of what went wrong and how Senator Paul Buddazu kind of understood by, fortunately, him being educated at Stanford and a graduate of Harvard, and he was a graduate in economics. And he had a minor in anthropology. But he went into politics to help set up the policy to develop the Chamorro Land Trust. Now, the primary mission and vision at that time, and if we read the history, was to develop residential and agriculture. To develop residential and agriculture, not golf, not racing. I'm an adrenaline addict myself. I like speed, and I like action. Don't matter where, when, or how. But considering the vision of Senator Berdalio and understanding the living conditions of our families, at that time the population was about 60 to 70,000, and about maybe 60 to 70% were in the hunting and gathering stages. So we understand that the transition at that time was the naval government was developing the PWC, NAS, Naval Hospital, NICTAMS, Anderson, Naval Air Station, and our local workforce was being employed. Now, fast forward to today, many of us became blue-collar or white-collar professionals. We started earning the capitalist vision. We need the money to get our costs before you just hunt and gather. Now you need the cash. Why am I saying that we need the cash? This 250 acre or 252 at 1 million square meter at one time when the contract was being signed back in 2018, I was a land agent myself. And I was assigned to go up to this place and inform those that were ranching to exit. And I told my boss, I'm not gonna I'm not going to do it. If you're going to do this for racing, then you do it. Somebody do it, but I'm not going to do it because that's not the vision. It wasn't the vision. Do we have place for racing, for drag, drift, and motocross? Absolutely. But the Ghost contract on this, when I was reading it, is that the contract was to allow the lessee to do 50-50. You extract the mineral and you go 50-50. So just that being said again, considering the size of the property and you're earning $4,000 a month versus a similar property that's 200 acres that's earning $25,000 a month, is a disparate treatment to the entrepreneur. So I'm just going to close with this, that the primary mission of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission is to develop residential and agriculture and to use the commercial contracts to generate cash, positive cash flow. And based on the intelligence that have been gathering around, social, local, underground, information is that some may want to occupy the property with no tax, no lease, no rent, and utilize the property for the operation of the motorsport. Again, I support the motorsport. I respect the technicians here, the motorcyclists, the off-roaders. I communicate with Mr. Joe here very frequently with the airport. I run the fleet up at the airport. We get a lot of support from both Cltc and all the motor operations around the island. But for this property to be leased out at zero cost, zero tax, I'm opposed to that. But to work out a plan, we have a preliminary plan that you showed about the subdivision. And I did request to cut. No, this is the preliminary cutout. If you.
Do you want those slides up?
Please,
We have them
yes,
ready, yes.
Yes. Are they ready?
Yeah. Do you want all of them or just the maps?
Well, just first the one that shows the map with
Okay,
the.
can we put the maps?
Okay, that would be the other.
Yeah, it's another packet. Marie?
Yeah, that was the.
Marie, we want the maps.
Because we had survey kind of partial out the drift, the drag, and the motocross. So that would be. It's similar to the first page that
I'm sorry, Marie, could you please ask Avi to put up the maps from Mr. Herrera?
Okay, while we're doing that, I can just. Okay.
No, that's not it. These are my maps. It's the first packet that we gave Avi. Right, so the first map's going to show your proposed
Okay.
division.
Right, and.
Here it is. All right.
Okay, yeah, if
This
we.
is the red lines around the different facilities.
All right, roger that. So if we look at the partial one, which is the drag strip, that's the one that we were mentioning.
Avi, are you able to zoom this a little bit? If not, parcel 1 is on the top. It's the red outlined long line. It's parcel 1. Go ahead, Mr. Herrera.
Okay, so when you first presented your initial presentation, we called that the peninsula. That's about a 60-foot cut on that drag strip. So I understood based on the research I've been doing that this was just a temporary drag strip. This was supposed to be temporary. Temporary, it's an interim to follow their master plan. I think this is about phase 5 out of 4. Or it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this peninsula right now, there's a cliff on the east side of the property, the north, and the west side. And on my second slide, I showed, because I did do a drone on this one, but it is very risky now because there's a 60-foot drop around the perimeter of this one. And my first recommendation is to slice this, cut it down to street level. Street level is about maybe 144 from sea level. And that would remove the hazard of the cliff, and then construct the drag strip if we so decide to continue the drag strip on this zone. Now, I see that the partial 2, the partial 1's about 5 acres. Then partial 2, which is a parking area, that's about another 5 acre. And then you go to partial 3, which is close to the drift.
Parcel 2 says parking slalom course area. Parcel 3 says oval track area.
Right, okay, oval track. And then partial 4 is a parking lot area, which is about 1 acre. Then partial 5 is the off-road motocross track area, which is
Parcel
about...
5 is on the bottom of the picture, the big V gray area.
Correct. That's about 30 acres. That's right next to the cliff line. And then the concession area, which is about 5 acres. Okay, so that being said, see, that was the initial interim, because I understand that the fear-mongering network was that, there was a lot of race out there and all those things, and it does happen even in our village in the south. A lot of the mechanics or kids that want to test their machine, they'll do it on the street.
So what does this map represent?
This one represents the potential partialing of the drift drag and the motocross.
Okay.
It's an interim.
All right.
Right. And you can do a dual or triple operation on the off-road.
Okay. Do you want to show the next map?
Yes, that
All
would
right,
be
next
the
map.
topography map.
Okay, this one?
Yeah, so here we're fortunate to find a topography map from pre-war, basically. This one kind of gives us the configuration of how it was at that time, and then we can do some comparison contrast on the current topography, but that would be another subject. That would be the AG's specialty on that one.
What's the date of this map?
If I'm not mistaken, this is the Army Corps in the 48, 49.
Okay.
This is where, this is only the topo. The topo was overlaid on the existing property.
Survey. It says 6/11/2024.
Oh, that's my note
okay.
when I sent it.
All right.
Okay. And then, well, the next one would be the survey mapping in the beginning.
Next slide. Next map. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the survey in the original.
Correct. That's back in
right.
the 80s.
Okay. Next map.
So, just for historical purposes, this property was supposed to be quarried by one of the quarrying company. They were not provided the permit, so then it went to this transition where it is today, where all 3 quarry operators were dipping in the bucket. Okay, so that would be on that slide, and can we...
Next slide.
Yeah, the next one, just real quick.
This is it, the last one. Marble, is it, that one? That map?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, there was another
This one says Marble Case Base Command, and next to it is lot 7161-R1 on the right side.
Yeah, that's another 400 or 500 acres that are, you see this area, right?
Yeah.
If we,
Government of Guam.
Part of it is Lahuna. These are very good properties for limestone, natural resource, and then also for housing. So if we move forward to make this a housing area, the drift, the drag, and the motocross would have to be removed
Why is that?
because of the topography. And if you look at most of the surrounding areas are housing area, and most of them are subdivided into house lots. Now the other two,
Which lot are you talking about right now?
7161. Where the drag strip is at.
Oh, the same lot,
Yes, and then the neighboring lot
dash
is...
R1.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, and then 7164. Oh, these are housing areas,
okay.
okay?
There are no housing areas right now.
Well, across the street, which is, you see 7161 R1, it's a remainder from a main lot. So there's another lot across the street. Okay?
Across the back road?
Route 15, correct,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Okay, so we can go to, can we show the next one? I sent
Okay, there are no more maps.
No
You
more
want to go
maps.
to the,
PowerPoint,
okay, the PowerPoint,
if we have time, because I know there's a lot.
as fast as you can, please, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's page 1. That's the bill and a short summary of where the land trust is a land reclamation program in accordance with the 2002 settlement agreement ordered by the U.S. District Court under Public Law 12-226 and Public Law 35-112. This is where it specifically mentioned that the program is a land reclamation program for agriculture and residential. Then we go to slide 2. There is, we're honoring and recognizing the founder, which is the Honorable Paul Verdalio. We can go to the next slide. This is the testimony when it was here in this building in the beginning when the contract was being presented. We can go to slide 4.
Not getting paid as a pro, okay? So whatever money they pull in the concession or whatever, that was their price for these guys.
That was our
And
former
some of them
chairman.
make, maybe what, $200, $150, $200 to raise. And they build all these machinery, you know, to make their cars look nice. So, and I'm glad you brought that about the material. When they were doing up in Jigo and they had the first track race, my mom's spirit still lasts up there. Henry said, Oscar, I said, what? We need dirt. I said, what do you mean you need dirt? I said, you got dirt up there? He said, man, it's all coral up there. It's all coral up there. I said, so what they did, about maybe 1,000 loads of dirt from the original part of the track, they brought it up there. So at no cost again, we just gave them, you know. So I'm asking you senators to
Okay,
support
we can
this
go
bill,
to the next
you know.
slide, Speaker,
You're gonna
because
say
I
it
know
better
the
than-
time is very short. This is the former Senator George Cltc. He's been chiming in when we were first doing the research to find out the facts of what was going on between the Chamorro Land Trust and the neighboring properties with Smith Bridge, how the neighboring lot 7164 was cleared without the consent and or in compliance with the Parks and Rec and Department of Agriculture. We can go to the next slide.
All right,
That's Attorney
okay.
Christian Finney. That was our initial inspection. The peninsulas on the back. To the right side, it's a housing development from Jerry Kramer. On the right side, it's already at a street level. Then we go to the next slide. Drag strip is on top. That's I measured that about 60 feet with a drone. Next slide. That's a drag strip, and that's the return lane. The yellow strip there's the loads of gravel that to prevent customers or cars from flipping over the cliff line. Next. Well, we saw that already. That's the shortcut. Next. Next. Next, that's a Chamorro Land Trust testimony that there was no activity going there with coral extraction. Next. That's the pipe on the center is the corner lot of 7161. There's a white, that's the original height of the property. And then you see how much to the right, you see the discoloration. That was the original 7161 that was cut To the left is owned by Kramer and another family. Next. There's again Mr. Cltc. Next. Okay, okay. There you go. When I first came in the Chamorro Land Trust in March of 2022, that was already covered. That's about more than 200 loads of imported material. When we came there, Joey can testify, there was 3 or 4 truckloads, but I did a pin on this one, and what you see there is on the east side. Where you see the triangle is the drag strip. Route 15 is on the base. That was overdocked. It was drilled over 6 feet, detonated, extracted the material, then they backfilled it, covered it with gravel. If we go there now and dig that out, we'll find that material right there.
What material?
Those are exported material from the outside, which at that time when we came, there was like broken hollow blocks and stuff like that. So we did take a picture, but we didn't see the entire, it was already covered with aggregate.
In one of the Chamorro Land Trust minutes, they talk about like backfilling with debris. I don't know, construction debris.
Correct, yeah.
Can't
But they
remember.
did that because the property was extracted.
Okay.
Again, we can verify with the topo now, so okay, we can go to the next one. There, if we look at this, right, this is I believe there's 2 groups here that's working today. The former Guam Racing Federation, and then there's the, I think the Baja. I give honor to both groups. They all like motorsports. But the reason why I highlighted this is that the recommendation was, number 1, to issue a public rather than a commercial lease. And
Whose
as I noted-
recommendation? Yours?
No, on the recommendation from this group.
Okay, you're talking about the media articles and you're responding to
Right,
that. Okay,
right,
go
and
ahead.
the motorsport group. So, and on the right side, they have 3 proposals to issue a public rather than a commercial. Then item number 2, remove the cost burden of a property tax. And number 3, authorize Cltc to immediately enter into a temporary license. Again, we have 11,000 acres. We got 10,000 applicants. We have 2,900 leases. And just today, the commissioners here and the director would attest that we had families that are still applying for the Mawar emergency repair. Until today, these families are living in a substandard condition. They are pleading for our help. And for us to, I mean, I understand the need versus the wants, but our mission is to do residential and agriculture, utilize commercial lease to generate positive cash flow. No, all the entrepreneurs that are in this room and the sponsors, with the amount of capitalists that's sponsoring the raceway, we can buy this parcel right here. We can buy the legislature, and we can buy the church across the street, the amount of cash flow that's being generated by the sponsors. So again, I am imploring and I'm asking our group here to take that into consideration. We have 10,000 applicants, but that 10,000 was back in '95. That would have doubled today. Just last night, we had a hearing up in Dedidu, controversy between the golf course and doing solar farm. You know how many signatures we gathered in favor to help the Chamorro Land Trust? Over 500. There's 1,000 golfers, we gathered about 500, very short time. We got votes up there that are watching each one of us. When I say votes, these are voters. And this is just for the golf course. Are they here now, the supporters that we're talking about? No, but they're watching. And we can gather, I can carry that amount of votes right now relative to the support of the 10,000 voters and the 2,900 leases. That's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Jesus Masi, Commissioner Herrera. Commissioner Garrido?
Hello, my name is Commissioner Earl Garrido. Thank you, Chairperson Terlaje, Senator Burnett, and I believe you're a co-author also. I believe you're a co-author also, Joanne Brown, Senator Joanne Brown. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I have a hearing problem.
I apologize. I'm not currently a co-sponsor, but I'm here.
Well, anyhow, I'm here today in my personal capacity in full support of the Bill 287-37, which deals with the CLTC property in Jigo. Bill 287-37 aims to authorize the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to subdivide and enter into commercial leases or licenses for specific tracts of land. This bill seeks to address issues with the current lease process, which has been stalled since 2018 due to legal requirements and management problems. The bill would allow the CLTC to move forward with processing applicants and streamlining the process and addressing backlog of over 8,000 applicants. The bill also aims to address issues with Chamorro Land Trust commercial leases or licenses for specific tracts of land. The bill would impact overall management of CLTC in several ways. One, streamlining the process by processing applicants in batches. The CLTC can move quickly through the outstanding applicant list, addressing the backlog and reducing the wait for new leases. Two, flexibility in lease management. The bill would allow CLTC to issue leases to applicants who are unable to build immediately, providing more flexibility in managing the waiting list. Three, improve efficiency. By addressing the backlog and streamlining the process, CLTC can focus on other important tasks such as surveying and preparing land for new leases. Four, enhanced transparency. The bill would provide more transparency in the lease processing, allowing applicants to better understand the status of their applications and the timeline for lease issuance. To applicants who are unable to build immediately, the bill would provide more opportunities for land conservation and development. Overall, Bill 287-37 aims to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the CLTC, ultimately benefiting the Chamorro people in the community by providing more opportunities for land stewardship and development. I chose to be the third speaker because I know that Commissioner Herrera had this big to-do on his presentation. I wanted to be the closing remark to it. I understand this is a very difficult decision to be made by this legislature. I also understand that I'm weighing the two sides. One side is a small group of race enthusiasts, and on the other side would benefit the majority of the people of Guam who are in line for leases. We need that property to stay within CLTC because it will be a source of revenue that we can use towards building infrastructures for the CLTC properties throughout the island. It's not going to be the only property that will generate income for us, but it's one of the properties. That's all. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Commissioner Garrido. Thank you. All right, we'll now hear from the Acting Executive Director, Mr. Cruz. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good afternoon, Speaker Terlaje. Thank you for providing this opportunity to provide the discussion and decision made by the board on June 13, 2024 at one of our scheduled board meetings. I apologize, my name is Joey Cruz. On Thursday, June 13, 2024, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission Board of Commissioners had unanimously voted to support Bill 287-37, with the requested amendment. That amendment is to Section 2C, which is to add the word by. Considering the amendment, Section 2C will read, any and all taxes, fees, and assessments levied upon the property and any improvements described herein shall be borne and paid for by the lessee licensee. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Cruz, Acting Administrative Director. Ms. Dede?
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Dede. Speaker Terlaje, Senators. This testimony is solely of the undersigned CLTC employees and does not reflect the opinion, view, or influence of the CLTC or its board members. We want to acknowledge the senators of today and the past for the bills they have introduced with the intention of providing CLTC with the ability to fulfill its duties as mandated by law. Whether or not it was passed or enacted into law, they have displayed their commitment to support the only program on our island that has been clearly defined as a land restoration program to address the unjustly taking of the property by the federal government. In 2018, CLTC was scrutinized for actions approved administratively and contrary to law. As a result, 102 leases were deemed null and void by the former Attorney General of Guam, Elizabeth Barrett Anderson. After a plea with CLTC Oversight Chair, former Senator Tom Atta introduced a bill 356-34 to address the actions contrary to law, but nothing had come to fruition. One would surmise it was due to lack of support. Today, only 16 of those leases have been categorized as adjudicated. There remains 86 leases that have not been adjudicated, leaving families who have taken out mortgages to construct their homes on CLTC lease properties, families who have paid for their surveys, and families who have made other improvements with uncertainty and anxiety about the outcome of their leased property. Also, many residential and agriculture leases, for example, CLTC approves applicant to switch their application type. Then the applicant was awarded a lease based on their new application type. The CLTC Act and the Paul J. Berdallo Rules and Regulations are both silent on this action, which does not authorize CLTC to approve the action of an applicant switching their application type. With the amendments needed to the statute that will grandfather this action, CLTC may be forced to null and void all those leases by applying the law. Many other issues need to be addressed to make those leases that contain anomalies related to their lease awards whole and legal. Now today, the 37th Guam Legislature has provided the opportunity for the general public to provide testimony on the intent of Bill 287-37. That would authorize the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to subdivide and enter into a commercial lease or license for a subdivided portion of Lot 7161-R1 in the municipality of Jigo for the operation of a raceway, and repeal Public Law 34-142 in its entirety. We do not support nor oppose the intent of Bill 287-37. However, we would like to remind the 37th Guam Legislature the mission and primary responsibility of the Commission, which is to issue residential and agriculture leases to the eligible beneficiaries who qualify as a result of the unjustly taking of property by the federal government. CLTC has authority granted through the 21 GCA, Chapter 75A 122, that provides the requirements for processing and executing any commercial license or lease that will be issued. In closing, let's not overlook the profound significance of the CLTC Act, a testament to the resilience and determination of our people. It stands as a monument to the hard work and sacrifice of the pioneer former Senator Paul John Berdallo and the monumental efforts of the late Senator Angel Santos and the Nashawn Chamorro in 1990s. The hunger strikes, court battles, and the 2 public campouts on the lawn of Adelut were not in vain. They led to the arduous requiring They led to the establishment of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. The road to its implementation was arduous, requiring a multifaceted approach from the former Senator Angel Sanchez and Sean Chamorro, but they succeeded. So in closing, I would like to say, let the late Senator Angel L.G. Sanchez's words continue to stay with us. Generations come and generations may pass. But if no generation has the courage, the conscience, and the conviction to right the wrongdoings of the past, then the generations will have to live with the same injustice in the future. Thank you.
Sizos Masi, Ms. Dede, and to the employees you said signed also?
Yes.
All right. Can we get a copy of that as well?
Yes.
Sizos Masi. Thank you all. I'm going to ask the next panel to come up. Sizos Masi. This will include I'm sorry, can the Cltc stay? Mr. Herrera, Ms. Berdalio, Mrs. Berdalio. The senators would like to ask you some quick questions. Ms. Dede, Mr. Cruz. All right. Senator Barnett.
Sidus Masi, Madam Chair, buenas to the panel. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to support the bill today. And I thank the panel, Vice Chairman Herrera, Chairwoman Berdallo, Acting Director, Senor Garrido, as well as Mrs. Dede for your testimony and for the refresher course on the history of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, Sidus Masi. Fully understand the intent of the land trust and the great need that it hopes to fill with our Chamorros. That being said, though, I want to ask, in your opinion, is there a way forward with the raceway where we can honor the intent of the land trust and also accommodate through the subdivision of the property the interests of the motorsports enthusiasts that have gathered here today, and for even those who aren't here? Anybody who wants to answer, really. Chairwoman Berdallo.
We could accommodate the raceway people. But we also like to, they don't need the whole thing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And yeah, the bill doesn't give them the whole thing. And I was just looking over some of the testimony that was provided to the committee. I'll just read a little piece over here that the Guam racing community requires the entire property for the continuation of the activities that previously took place at the Guam Raceway Park. And I just want to state for the record, we do not want to repeat some of the activities that took place at the Guam Raceway Park. And so thank you, Chairman Herrera, for the map that you provided that I think really shows a way forward subdividing this property. And I kind of did the quick math, and so based on the map you provided, we're looking at a total of about 50 acres, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Senator. About 50 acres. Okay,
So it's my opinion, in reading a lot of the media reports, there was talk about a public lease, public license, which I don't think exists under the Chamorro Land Trust. But with the subdivision of the property into this smaller parcel, and then maybe even subsequently even smaller parcels, in your opinion, does that then make these properties accessible for groups to assume the lease and then, shoulder the cost of the potential cost of a lease?
Yes and no. My basic thought on this one is we want a win-win situation both for the land trust and the motorsport enthusiasts. So a lot of us, and probably yourself, when you come there and you do an MC for another function other than drag strip, like the light show, we want a piece of the pie also. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be just exclusively for the motorsport. We can do a combination of, you know what I mean, a hybrid kind of operation.
No, I agree, sir, and that's what I mean about not wanting to repeat the activities that took place at that raceway. Obviously, you, in your testimony, you went through a litany of, you know, some of the, for the lack of a better term, some of the sins of the fathers that are now being, really the motorsports community is bearing the brunt of those things. But, you know, I hosted a lot of events at the track, and, you know, it just, it bothers me that we had this pillaging of the Cascao, the Chamorro gold, right? And so much of it was taken, and there's so little documentation. At the end of the day, we have no idea how much money was made. And then, in the meantime, some of my friends who are motorsports enthusiasts were charged by these federations, you know, thousands of dollars to have an event. And when we looked at how much money was given to the Chamorro Land Trust, it didn't add up. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to move forward with the subdividing of the property and also make sure that we don't repeat what happened in the past, whether it be with the taking of the Cascao or the keeping of the profits from the many events that were held up at the racetrack.
Yes, and Attorney, if the speaker mentioned that in the beginning there was like a $8 million of tax break, which GIDA was supposed to have an oversight, and GIDA was absent during this process. As I dig more into this operation, my question was that who was monitoring, and where was the landlord? When I came there March in 2022, I remembered being here with Ms. Tello and Ms. Joanne Brown when I mentioned that I was going to do a drone inspection on the place. So you got to really come in close. And what happened when I came there is that I asked Mr. Joe and the administrative director at that time, Ms. Angie Camacho, to bring me up to the spot. What was amazing is that the shortcut was gated in. There was a control lock. Who has the control of the lock? I know. I found out who has the control of the lock. From the perimeter of the private property to 7164 to 7161, when I showed you the pipe, I found out who exactly had the lock and why. And that's being checked in right now because the Office of Accountability did a preliminary check, but they were only looking at the surface. What you need to do is you got to dive down and see the operations from the bottom. That's how you can find. You got to pick up the rock and look how many termites are down there.
Chairman Herrera, I commend you because...
I mean, you know, not,
yeah.
No offense to anybody.
No. I watched, I was at KUAM at the time that you did this, I call it an expose, really, and it was your due diligence and hard work on the property that really kind of blew the lid off what we later discovered to be, you know, very egregious and, you know, acts, I would say, border on, you know, crimes against the island. So I also commend you for kind of giving us a glimpse, you know, and it's interesting to me that we had this federation, which we don't really see now, but now there's a new federation, which kind of looks like it's 99% of the same people from the old federation. And it's very hard for me to differentiate the interests of that group versus the interests of the grassroots racers in the motorsports community. Because I don't think the grassroots racers need 250 acres. I think it's really the federation and some of these special interests who are pushing for this entire property to be utilized by the quote-unquote the motorsports community. And I think, and I commend you again for showing us what could be in this map, which, again, for everybody watching, subdivides all the parts that I'm familiar with the motorsports community using. And that's the off-road area, the drag strip, the parking lot, and oval track.
Right, so you see that subdivision there, there's about 6 parcels, so that's what you call the bump and sniff. So what that did is that it brought up this crowd. So in this crowd, is it just one crowd, or is this divided within? So based on the testimonies you'll be hearing later, you will find out the facts. Is there a puppeteer behind this operation? We'll see.
Yeah, I think, we want to get everyone back on the track, and I firmly believe that this bill is the way to do that. So I just ask again the community for their support. And, my kids, we have joint custody, and they stay sometimes with their mom up in Jigo, and I take back road from the south. And so every time I go get my kids, I signal to turn left right at the drag strip and the cliff. And every time I do that, I kind of turn and I go, because it's a damn shame that the actions of the leadership and the previous federation really got us into this position that we're in now, where we have these interests who are trying to pit this whole issue and the supporters of it against the legislature. And we are sincerely trying to find a way forward so that we can get everyone back on the track in a way that benefits the intent of the Chamorro Land Trust and also supports the motorsports community.
Thank you for that, Senator, because again, back in the States, right, for you to operate in for drag strip or stuff like that, you generally buy your private property. When the operation operates on a private property, then you remove all the encumbrances or the regulatory agencies from Chamorro Land Trust, for an example. So,
right, and
I think we should know. You want a car, you buy your own car. You want a dragster, you buy your own dragster. You want a drag strip, buy your own drag strip.
Thank you for that, Chairman Herrera. But I think that it's clear in the speaker's opening how much the motorsports community has been supported with this property, whether it's tax credits or just the use that's been allowed of it. And I think really our intent is to move forward and to get the racers back on the property the best way that we can, that again benefits both parties. And I think based on your testimony, the testimony we heard here from the Land Trust leadership, I'm very convinced and encouraged that this bill is the way to do that. So, Sijos Masi, Madam Speaker.
Sijos Masi, Senator Barnett. Senator Terlaje.
I've been here since 2. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for being here to testify on this bill. I do have a few questions regarding this bill. What it allows the Chamorro Land Trust to do is go into negotiations with a nonprofit organization to lease the land for 5 years. That's correct, right? So if this bill should pass, then you'll sit down at the table and start negotiating or receiving individuals who have every intention of wanting to lease the land. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, that's what I understand based on.
And this agreement only allows you to negotiate with those individuals who want to run a racetrack, right? So nobody come over there and start, doing something for farming or build a warehouse or anything like that. It's strictly for the solely for the racetrack.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, so now we established that. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The second question I have is, what has any nonprofits come in front of the board or spoken to any of you or even the acting director with their intentions?
Yeah, our acting director can answer that, Mr. Joey.
Okay. Joey?
The nonprofit groups that came before CLTC or its board was the Guam Racing Federation and the current federation now, I believe it's the Motocross or Motorsports group, chaired by Mr. Hans Ada. Those are the only 2 groups, nonprofit groups that I know of that had came forward.
Can the Chamorro Land Trust, when negotiating these lease agreements, can stipulate that anyone who was involved with the prior lease, that, obviously, a lot of shenanigans were happening at that last, during that last lease agreement, the extracting of minerals and just, obviously doing things that were not part of the lease agreement. Can you, as a Chamorro Land Trust, deny any of those applicants if they're the same people?
That's something we have to clear with our legal counsel. At this time, every licensee or the license that was awarded to the previous occupant or licensee was the Guam Racing Federation. So it was awarded to that group. Now, if your question is if a member of that group is a member of a new group who's interested in leasing out the property, again, we would need to get clearance from our legal counsel if that's even possible. The bill does set forth what process we should follow, which is the 21 GCA 75A 122. In that section, we would have to go through a competitive bid process. So it's not like we just are going to entertain a specific group. There's going to be a publication and a request for proposal that will be published and for a period of time, and we'll receive all the proposals that are submitted, rate them, and then based on whatever the checklist is or the requirements, we'll rate them and present them to the board and go through that whole process.
Do you plan on using the commercial lease rates of today to implement in this agreement? In other words, per square acre, how much it's going to cost? Are you planning on using the commercial rates that are used out on Guam on all commercial properties?
Again, we will refer back to the 21 GCA subsection 75A 122, which does require for appraisal to be done, and which does set a limit of the lowest percentage a 10% percentage of the fair market value that the board can decide on the rental fee per annum. The board cannot go less than 10%.
Okay, and the other question I have with regards to ensuring that the grounds, because we just mentioned how Gita, who is overseeing it, failed to monitor the contract to ensure that they're complying to the agreement. This time around, will Chamorro Land Trust have the enforcement and the ability to inspect the property while it's being leased for 5 years?
Given what we've experienced already, we will ensure that there's internal controls and requirements that are in place from start to end. For example, we could propose or include a requirement about a topo map being conducted at the beginning, midway, and months before the license should expire to allow us to keep an accurate account for any removal of minerals. We will request for monthly revenue reports in relation to any activity or sublease activity, things of that nature. So for sure we will consider proposing to the board internal controls that will ensure that there's proper monitoring of all the activities and the revenue generated.
What about environmental impact? When it comes to the raceway, we know that there's a lot of oil involved, spillage, gasoline spills, things like that, and you're over the aquifer. So what kind of precautions are you going to take as a board to ensure that whoever is leasing the property is not contaminating the ground, which is over our aquifer?
Again, that will be another condition added in the lease for EPA clearances, EPA random inspections if possible, things of that nature.
I think you should incorporate that too as well. I appreciate if the board incorporates that. So currently now, we don't know how long this is going to take, and I'm pretty well. Is the board willing to allow special events, just one-time special events at the Raceway Park to happen and just do, so that they're not losing out? It's summertime. This is usually the time where events are taking place. Is the board okay with allowing certain events happen for now, one-time events?
At one of our previous board meetings, there was discussion about a sponsorship, which the commission will provide the venue contingent that the event holder obtains general liability insurance to indemnify the CLTC of any liabilities. I believe that the draft to that sponsorship program has been forwarded to our attorney for review.
Okay, that's good to hear. I mean, because this may take, a little bit of time. We're going into budget. I'm pretty sure that everyone here who's in support of bringing back, the track, they too want to ensure that our land is protected, number one, and that what happened in the past doesn't happen again, because it put the whole raceway park into jeopardy and where we are sitting today because of it. So I'm pretty sure many of those who are here today want to see the right thing being done, and so I appreciate those who are here to, standing here and supporting it, but know that it's got to be done right this time around. My last question is, I've introduced legislation to actually increase contracts. As a business person myself, I know that 5 years is not a lot of time. You put a lot of investment into projects and you build infrastructure, and that funding, that amount of work costs money, and to try and, get back that at least what you put into it, it's going to take longer than five years, most likely. So is the board willing to at least up this from 5 years to 10 years? I do understand the importance of re-evaluating after a certain amount of time. After 5 years, the cost of things go up a little bit, and you want to make sure you get the bang for your buck, the buck for your bang, So I understand that, but, 5 years is a short period of time for anybody to recoup.
I understand that,
Yeah.
Senator.
Yes, you're a businesswoman too, aren't you?
I understand that totally.
Okay.
But the law says anything after 5 years have to go through the legislature.
Through the legislature. Well, do you have any objections if I make an amendment to include it to 10 years?
5 years, the first 5 years, depending on whether they're within the...
They're following the guidelines and the rules and
good
regulations.
Standing.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're in good standing. Okay,
Yeah.
I agree to that, of course, but it's always important to, people invest a lot of money, and that's why we can't get a lot of these, businesses to come here to Guam to open up because of this issue. So, well, I greatly appreciate your answers to my questions and being here tonight. And Ms. Day, you got a lot of courage, I appreciate it. And I'm so happy to hear that you're at an area that you truly believe in its purpose and its intent, and coming in front of all these people who want this racetrack, you're keeping it real. And I'm so happy to know that you're working at Chamorro Land Trust with the heart that you have right now for the people of Guam, with its real intention of the Chamorro Land Trust. Thank you so much for having that courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I don't want to lose those who have signed up to testify, so I'm hoping to get to them, but I know you guys, senators, wanted to question this panel, so I'm allowing it. It wasn't my plan, so please, Senator Brown, Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Certainly good evening to all of you and coming here and providing your testimony. We're challenged because of the history, the mutual history of those that actually manage the racetrack and the land trust itself. When I was at the University of Guam, we were contracted by the Chamorro Land Trust to actually do an evaluation of your agricultural leases, which also migrated into your commercial leases. So I had many, many, many hours and many, many days and months to sit and review these lease agreements, all by myself. And so I also saw, to the degree that, particularly with commercial leases, that the land trust was not very aggressive in following up and ensuring compliance and payment of those that occupied commercial leases. With regards to the racetrack, there was no one almost on any regular basis keeping track of what gravel and minerals were being extracted from the racetrack. And so the opportunity was mutually there for those to abuse the system because the land trust itself also was not following up and ensuring proper compliance with its asset. And that's the challenge we have moving forward. I don't, the racetrack is there. It's very similar to the issue of legislation that was brought before us with your other property with the golf course. Do we obliterate the golf course and turn it into a solar farm? Do we obliterate the racetrack and put it to other uses? We recognize that the need is there for both sides. I think it's an opportunity to compromise, but I think there's a burden on both sides moving forward to ensure the proper use and compliance. That is a job of the Land Trust Commission. And also ensuring that your staff and the people that are supposed to execute these requirements are properly doing their job. It's very difficult to do that when they have their hands in the cookie jar. We know the history of employees themselves who are ensuring they, themselves, their family get the best, gosh, sometimes even beachfront property. That is not what's supposed to happen. It's sad when we see land and money on the table. Some people unfortunately choose to do the wrong thing. And there's a lot of history, a lot of very bad history with the land trust that needs to be corrected moving forward. And I hope that you collectively, those of you that currently sit on the board and those of you that are employees, are going to be even more aggressive to address compliance and what is your responsibility on behalf of our people, because there's been a tremendous disservice over the years, including many that have waited. But when you have select individuals have their families, their siblings, how convenient. Get land trust property adjacent to their own family property. What are the odds of that happening? What are the odds of that happening? We know there's been a lot of abuse. The politics and the politricks enter the system, and that's what we see. So that'd be many years. I don't know if I would ever want to see us just go back and grandfather. I think those cases need to be looked into. It's tremendous abuse. People who hold on to land trust properties that don't use them for what their required intended purposes are. And there are thousands of Chamorros. I'm entitled. I'm not standing in line applying, because I know there are others that probably can use the land even more that can benefit themselves and their families. But those compliance need to be addressed. And if they're not doing it, then do what you got to do. The land trust has not historically done that. And that's also contributed to the abuse of land trust property. The same thing, of course, when you move forward with your agreement. This bill does successfully pass. We want to see compliance of whichever nonprofit company takes over to ensure that they are also in compliance and moving forward. There's sins all around here, particularly the amount of land up there that's been extracted. And if they've not properly used the land, if the land is used for the dumping ground and the burial of materials that were not supposed to be used for a hard fill, those are the kind of things we know that don't meet current environmental regulations. So this is where we're at. It's not desirable, but this is where we're at. And I look forward to the debate on this bill. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your commission members going above and beyond to address these issues. But again, you have the ability and the power to oversee the properties that you lease. You need to be aggressive in doing that moving forward. That's the only way you're going to see compliance. My experience is if some people are given the opportunity, they will abuse it. Not everybody, but the odds are fairly good. If I leave $100 on the table and nobody's looking, is anyone going to take it? Will that $100 still be there? Come on, let's not kid ourselves. So I appreciate your engagement. Hopefully, if this bill does successfully pass, and this can at least provide a compromise to the parties involved, we just look forward to seeing compliance of all parties. This is an asset that's being put aside. It should not be abused. And I agree. I mean, if this was on private property, we would not be having this discussion. We would not be here. But it's not on private property, and we certainly want to see equitable return also to the Land Trust Commission, and then also the opportunity for those sports enthusiasts in our community to still have a safe place to race. And then also there might be other events you may want to hold that help address your financing for this particular project, since the opportunity is there to do so. So with that, thank you again. I don't have any other questions, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Kanata?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How much land inventory does Chamorro Land Trust have beyond the racetrack?
A total, I believe it's 11,666 acres. Out of that, 3,000 some is unregistered.
Okay. How many of that is commercial property? Do you?
CLTC has a cap. We cannot lease more than 9% of the unassigned inventory. The current number offhand that we're commercially leasing, we can provide that to you.
Thank you. Is your staffing an impediment to making sure that the Chamorro Trust is accountable? I understand you've been having difficulty trying to find board members. Do you think you need more staff to assist in your program's output?
Currently, yes, we do. To your question, currently we're in the process of recruiting employees. Recently, we've just established a compliance team. Our compliance team has started with the northernmost CLTC property, which is track 9210. From there, they'll work their way south. We've also had discussions with the Mayor's Council President, Mayor Alec, to discuss CLTC's compliance campaign and how the mayors can assist in that. But yes, to your question, we are recruiting more employees.
Thank you. Did you have legal issues that delayed your progress with the racetrack?
I believe there were some pending items.
Okay. Do you support having your own legal counsel?
Yes.
Thank you
Why
so
not?
much. Yes, I know. There's beyond you guys here. I know you guys are all a part of the Raceway Federation in one way or one respect. Also, kudos to the late Pope Borralio, Angel Santos. I know there's a lot of influential members that have played an integral role into seeing the Chamorro Land Trust properties be divided and given out to the people. Unfortunately, this program has been a failure because we still are at number 6. There's still a lot of legislation that needs to be addressed to have Chamorro Land Trust move forward. So there is a lot of courage that needs to come out of the Land Trust and the board so that we can address more than these concerns, more than the racetracks, right? There's a lot more issues out there that we need to continue to bow down the same way we are with this situation here. There's a lot of people that cannot afford a home, not even the land, but we cannot give people land or put power and water to every property out there, right? Even if we put 9 million, who's going to decide which way the pipe goes or which way the power pole lines up? That's a difficult decision for you guys to decide because you guys are landlords of that properties, all 11,800 acres. But, you know, I just think that this property has been dormant for so many months, if not almost a year already. And for me, let them race. You know, there's other properties that are dormant as well. We own a lot of property that should be profiting into money, but no tenant because we cannot figure out the legal bindings on the property. And it's not you guys' fault. You know, I know the board is new, but it's not also this legislature's fault that the racetrack is closed. But I think we just need to find a way forward so that everyone has some happiness here. And it's very disappointing that we've just been at status quo for so long. And I just want to see that these guys get back on the track one way or another. And it's not just, the drag strip use. There's other opportunities there. There's the mud kids or kid mudders. I don't know what that is. But you have also bikers. You have EIF, which is unfortunately going to be across the street because they got nowhere else to go wreak, craziness a little bit because that's like a hype lifestyle over there. But, the church is going to go haywire because we have a radical party next door. But we don't have anywhere else for them to go. We cannot put them in Epau Beach because then we're going to piss off the tourists. But I am just here to support. I'm a definite advocate for Chamorro Land Trust and the advancement of the Chamorro Land Trust program. But I think the reality is there's so many problems with the Chamorro Land Trust property, and we really need to sit down and put our money where our mouth is because it's a hard program to push out, and we need to address those concerns very soon because there's no one else to give the land. 11,000 acres, I think there's more than 11,000 here waiting. in line. Because the generations are going to come and going to add up the wait list. So, you know, I'm here to support you guys, and I'm going to support you guys whichever way you guys want to go. But I really think we need to address Chamorro Land Trust, the program entirely, seriously, and put more money into that program so that you guys can move forward and get the crazy idea is to make you guys autonomous. You guys make the decisions. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kanata. Senator Shelton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hi, Hafaday, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. We talked a little bit about the sponsorship opportunity that your agency has sent over to your lawyer. And so I'd like to know, what is the time frame that we're working with, and what's stopping us now from making the accommodation for the racers to get back into the raceway? What's stopping us from issuing a month-to-month lease or a 5-year lease at this time? Because this bill allows for a 5-year lease, which, you know, our understanding is that by law you can do this already. You can do a month-to-month lease. We can go after this sponsorship option. So what's the holdup with the legal counsel, the legal opinion, and what's the time frame that we're working with?
I'd like to answer that, Senator.
I'm directing my question to the Land Trust Commission, Madam Chair.
But the whole purpose of this bill is because there's an existing law that is binding the Chamorro Land Trust. They must follow that law or nothing right now. That's why.
So the section in the 75A that the speaker is referring to is 75A 122. It requires any commercial lease or license to be put through a competitive bid process. Aside from that, we are only allowed to issue a residential or agriculture lease. So anything that comes through the doors of CLTC in the form of wanting to commercial lease or license, there's a whole process to that, and the competitive bid process is the direction we would have to go through. This specific bill also will allow us to authorize, or will authorize CLTC to enter into a commercial license for 5 years, which will bypass the competitive bid process. Aside from the amount of the length of a license or a lease, based on CLTC's commercial rules and regs, which is 75A 122, the commission can license up to 21 years and lease up to 25 years. Any exceptional term lease term would have to be approved by the legislature. In regards to the sponsorship, I would need to follow up with our attorney to determine timelines.
Okay, I'd like to hear what the timeline is. And so if we were to pass this bill today or tomorrow or in this session in a few days, and it were to be signed into law, how quickly could this process happen? How quickly could we get the racers back on the track?
Safely, maybe 60 days. There's a process where we have to develop the RFP specs, get the board to approve, publish, put together a review team, rate the proposals, present it to the board. If they accept, then we execute.
So at the earliest, 60 days from the time this bill would become law.
That's our goal.
Okay. All right. So I really appreciate the mission of the Chamorro Land Trust. I've heard it over and over tonight again, the reminder that we have the Chamorro Land Trust in place to issue residential leases of property. It's a land restoration program, land for the landless program for our Chamorro people who do not have land, who lost their land during this period of time in our island. And the way I'm reading the bill now, in the definition, property is defined as the entire lot where the racetrack is. It's lot 7161-R1. And it is defined as the entire lot. And in section 2A of the bill, it says that the leasee or licensee must be a nonprofit. So I understand CLTC is here to support the subdivision of the property, but it seems unclear that it can actually go to landless Chamorro people. So would the use be for commercial use? Is your intention to use it to give as part of the landless program? Because a landless individual is not a nonprofit organization you're going to go into a contract with.
Based on the requirements of the bill, item B, it will be solely for raceway-related support facilities and various outdoor events for commercial purposes, not necessarily to lease or license to our residential or agriculture applicants.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm finding an issue here to understand that we want to give more land to people, that we have this wait list, but taking the racetrack away from the racers and the sports enthusiasts doesn't seem to be what will solve our problem here today. This doesn't seem to be the long-term solution that we're all here looking for. We've had these racers in the public hearing room time after time, out here in front of the legislature, coming together, waiting for this long-term solution. And so I don't see this bill as being everything that we need today to keep our kids off the street and the racers, the drag racers off the street, and to give a home to our motorsports enthusiasts while giving more land to the people of Guam who had their land taken away from them. So I'd like for us to find a better solution with the Chamorro Land Trust, with the issues that you've had. You know, I don't know if that this is the appropriate time to address those issues when we're talking about such an important piece of property to so many people. It was said that this is a small group of motor enthusiasts. This is not a small group of motor enthusiasts. There are thousands behind these people who are here today. We've seen petition after petition with thousands of signatures, events that draw thousands of people. We were at the Paseo Park a couple of months ago for the Baja Bash with hundreds of people coming and going, hundreds of cars and bikes there on display. So we know that this is something that our community cares about. And our community cares about the Chamorro Land Trust program too. But I don't know if this is the solution that we're all looking for, where we can all win, our whole community can win. So I'd like for us to look at the suggestions that are going to come to us in the next panel and see how we can make this bill better for everybody. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, panel, for being here. I want to say also thank you very much. Chamorro Land Trust has been very helpful in constituents help that have come to our office in regards to situations with the Chamorro Land Trust. So thank you very much for your tremendous help with that. I want to continue on what Senator Shelton had mentioned, because when I read Section 1 and Section 2 and Section A of Section 2 as well, to me, again, not being of a legal mind, but let me lot 7161-R1, that's inclusive of the whole property, right? 250 acres?
Correct.
Okay. In Section 1, it talks about subdividing lot 7161-R1. And was testimony earlier, in subdividing, what's the intent of the subdividing, and how much would you subdivide and give to the motorsports organization?
The intent of the subdivision is almost like a compromise. The commission would like, as the chairwoman had said, and they do support the activities of the racing enthusiasts, off-roading enthusiasts. But at the same time, we also have to think and keep in mind of our what's our primary responsibilities. So, as to your question about how much area, there is an idea based on the GPS.
Yeah, roughly at this point.
Between 50 to 60
50
acres,
to 60 acres?
possibly.
Okay. And so the balance, if the 50 or 60 acres will go then to the Motorsports Federation, the balance will go then to the Chamorro Land Trust for residential homes and all that, something?
At this time, it's unknown.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, because, the reason why I'm saying that is because it doesn't say so here, basically, okay? Section 1 says to subdivide, okay? Section 2 basically is inclusive of the whole property. And then when you go to subsection A, it says, it doesn't mention anything about subdivision, but it says, again, as Senator Amanda had mentioned, that the lessee or licensee must be a registered nonprofit organization. So inclusive of that, I mean, again, I don't know. I mean, again, there are suggestions to modify this bill, and I'm sure that's where we'll have to go, because I don't think this, as written, and what the accomplishment of the bill wants to do, I don't think it does it in this bill based on how it's written at this point. Let me ask you this as well. The previous I guess, organization that ran the organization, approximately how much did they pay to the Chamorro Land Trust in totality? Approximately. I mean, over the years, I guess.
Are you referring to revenue?
The previous organization that had the race.
From the mineral extraction activities, or from the 10% of the admission
well,
fee?
I guess what they paid you guys, basically. I mean, not estimated, I guess, what the mineral extraction, the checks that they gave you, what they totaled to over the years.
In rent?
Roughly.
I know for mineral extraction, it's a little over $2 million.
Okay.
As far as the 10% admission fee,
it's about 3 billion, 3 plus, something maybe?
For the admission fee, no.
Oh, no, I mean, inclusive of the mineral extraction? No?
Maybe.
Maybe, about 3 million?
Could be.
Could be? Okay, no. I'm just wondering, was infrastructure, that monies that came in, did the Chamorro Land Trust put in infrastructure to any areas that needed infrastructure?
There was a bill that was passed by maybe 3 legislatures ago that authorized CLTC to install power poles in property in Agan. That was one, and that's all I could recall at this time.
Okay. You know how much that ran? I mean, how much that cost, basically?
Maybe upwards of maybe $40,000.
$40,000. Okay. Because it was referenced that, again, the sponsors could buy property. I'm just wondering, I mean, maybe you're not the right person to ask this. I'll ask maybe the next panel to come up. I'm just wondering if, they generated that much money. I don't think they do. I mean, I've been to the track and been to situations happening up there, and it's few and far between. And I don't think it's an every night event that they have big money coming in. Sponsors, I mean, I know some of the sponsors here sponsor other events, soccer organizations. I'm just wondering as well, because organizations such as soccer, they also they rely on their bigger organizations, their mother organizations to have grants and things of that nature. I don't know if motorsports has that. They can avail themselves. I don't know at this point. And
That's unknown to
yeah.
us too.
And how long has the track been closed now?
I think upwards of a year, I believe.
A year, okay.
If not more.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so basically, as Senator Amanda had mentioned, or had asked, should the bill pass, how long would it take to be able to get the track back up? You said 60 days, around 60 days, right?
That's our goal.
That's your goal, okay. That's to be able to say, hey, this property you can use, right, basically? 60 days.
To execute
okay.
a commercial.
Yeah, okay, got it. The problem is I don't know at this point if the racers are able to use it within 60 days. Senator Shelton and I chair and co-chair the airport. And I know on a daily basis they have to look at the runway to see if, the previous night's rainfall and everything is safe for the planes to land. I'm just wondering, over the months, we've had tremors, we've had flooding. I'm just wondering if, again, how much damage has been done. Has there been damage to the raceway at this point? Has there been vandalism done?
I believe so.
Okay.
We've had some individuals who had trespassed, literally trespassed. Just recently, there was a group of people who were, I believe, hiking. We did call GPD. The south entrance of the raceway, if you were to visit there now, someone had cleared an entrance to the left of that double gate. So there has been, we assume there has been some people that...
Yeah, and I'm just wondering as well, again, if there's been damage to the track itself and whether it's suitable, again, once it's turned over to be able to race on. I probably seriously doubt it at this point that there has to be some modification, corrective measures being done for cars to safely race. And I'm just wondering, the cost of what the cost will be to, again, it's not just a matter, I don't think it's a matter of just opening it, says open, we're open for business, and, line your cars up and, wait for the green light and get going. I think, they're going to have to get inspected too by the organization, safety organizations and all that, I'm sure, to be able to have a safe facility. Anyway, some of these questions I need to ask, of course, the racing organization when they come before us. I know you can't answer that, but I'm just putting it out there that we should seriously consider some of the amendments that have been suggested, especially as well, when you look at a 5-year situation, right? A 5-year situation, I mean, we're dealing with this in the airport as well. They have a 5-year lease, and nobody's going to come to Guam and build. I mean, we have companies that want to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, and 5-year leases, adios. They're never going to make their money back. In business, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's where the government comes in and says, hey, we have a lot of property, but we just cannot entice folks to build. And for folks to invest hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in 5 years, adios. So, again, it's a legislative problem. But anyway, that being said, I'll wait and ask the motorsports folks that come up here, because they will, I'm sure we'll have the answer. But thank you very much. Appreciate it. And again, over the past year and a half, thank you very much. You guys have really made it happen for some of the constituents that come to their office regarding land trust issue. But thank you very much for that. But again, I just have questions regarding whether this is the answer to moving forward but I think maybe in some of the suggested amendments, we may get there. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blas, do you have questions for this panel? This is Chamorro Land Trust.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the panel for being here. A couple of questions, and I'll go along with what I guess is concern brought up by Senator Lujan. As I'm looking through the bill here, and it does basically call for to subdivide the lot for the purposes of entering into a commercial lease. And you stated, Mr. Chair, that you're looking at probably about 50 acres to give to the Raceway Federation? I mean, is that what? Possibly
A subdivision of 50 to 60 acres for the racing activities.
And what was the intent to do with the remainder of the lot?
At this time, it is unknown until the board has decided.
Okay, well, because I too share the same concern with regard to the construction of the bill, in that while it talks about subdividing it for commercial lease, it doesn't talk about how the other portions are going to be used or whether or not it's going to be for commercial lease as well. But then also, I'm looking at the terms and conditions. Let me ask you, in the leases that you've got right now, I'm looking at the terms and conditions that are spelled out here that are going to apply. Are any of these are these terms and conditions applicable, or do you apply them to any other of your leases, or is this a new form of terms and conditions?
Any previous lease executed prior to the enactment of our commercial rules and regs do not contain specific terms and conditions. But moving forward, under subsection 75A 122, we apply those terms and conditions. This specific bill speaks solely to the activities at the raceway. So this bill provides us with some terms with addition to the terms that are available within 75A 122.
Okay. Okay. Lastly, and so that we can move forward, how long has that property been? You evicted them. You evicted the Raceway Federation from the property. When was that?
I don't, we can get you the exact date, but it was a while ago.
So, give me a rough estimate as to when you...
Maybe a year or more?
A year?
Yes.
Okay, and in that year, who was responsible for maintaining or overseeing the site?
The Guam Racing Federation.
No, in the year that you kicked them out, who was responsible for overseeing the site?
You mean in terms of condition, maintenance?
Yeah.
There is nobody.
Nobody. But it's in your inventory.
Correct.
So, therefore, you're responsible.
We're responsible for the property, but I cannot speak to who has responsibility for the buildings, the maintenance of the track. Normally, when we lease or license property, it's as an as-is condition. We don't lease buildings, we don't lease, we just lease the real property.
So right now, if there was a theft, if there was destruction to the property, if there was, you're not responsible? That's what you're saying? You're not liable for it?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, in terms of the maintenance of the existing structure, in terms of the drag strip, the drift area, the warehouse that's there, we have not provided any type of maintenance or upkeep of them. In the years that I've been in the Chamorro Land Trust, when if there was any commercial lessees or licensees that have not necessarily evicted, but their license was not renewed, and there was any existing structure, I don't recall Chamorro Land Trust maintaining the structure.
Okay, so let me just ask very simple. What's the tallest structure that exists in that property right now?
I believe it's the structure above the racetrack.
Which is about how tall is that?
2 stories, I believe it's 2 stories.
So maybe about 16, 18 feet?
Could be.
Somebody jumps off that thing and breaks his arm, who's liable?
I'm going to assume the property owners, but that's a question for our legal counsel.
Well, they don't have, you kick the Raceway Federation out of there. There's nobody, somebody's got to have the legal responsibility for that. Okay? And, you know, when we talk about wanting to get back, and I know you say that you lease property conditions as is, but as it was languishing, okay, there has to be, you know, some way to maintain it, because then, you know, you lease it back to them. Who carries the liability of the burden of being able to make those improvements or to make those repairs for damages that occurred in the interim during that time of the expulsion? Okay, so and that's a concern that I have with this there. Lastly, was it ever your intent, Chamorro Land Trust, if you were to subdivide this, give it 50 acres back to the raceway, then the assumption is then the other 200 acres, or is it going to be for residential or commercial use?
It can be anything.
It can be anything.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be 50 acres either. It could be more than that. Right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Blas. So I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that you made, your testimony. And Ms. Dede, you would like to address first, and just let you know that, yeah, we know that there are very many issues that need to be resolved. Otherwise, all those leases are void. And that's really the choice that we've been presented. Either change the laws or they're all void. And not everybody agrees whether that's fair or not. But there are bills right now on the session agenda, 245, 246, and 288 for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Those were all at the recommendations of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and we continue to move forward with all those that they believe are required, at least previous directors. And again, so the bill is not a permanent solution, obviously, for this property. It's a 5-year interim proposal for this property that will allow the racetrack to be operated. It will allow, because we were paying attention to the Chamorro Land Trust meetings, and since they were unable, the GRF, who was given first priority, was unable to come to a lease with the Chamorro Land Trust under the previous law, but that law is still in place. It restricts anybody they're bound to that law. But GRF cannot anymore get a lease under that law. So we are coming up with another proposal because we heard during the meetings discussion by the commissioners for other issues, such as what if we divided the raceway? So this bill, as fast as we could, allows you to divide the raceway if that is your impediment to leasing out a raceway, right? Otherwise, the racers are going to be competing with every other commercial use of this property for the 250 acres, as opposed to cutting out portions and letting them use the raceway portions while the Chamorro Land Trust decides what it's going to do, what it can do with the rest of the property, and if it needs legislative support for that, then we do that. But That part, the Chamorro Land Trust needs some time to decide. But the raceway part, they seem to, or my understanding from their testimony and from what they discussed in their meetings, that they're interested in doing that. In fact, they had a proposal from GRF, the new GRF, that was for 2 years. That was for racing activities, that they would incur the liability, that they would incur the taxes, they would incur, they would not do any mineral extraction, they would not do anything to the property without the permission of the Chamorro Land Trust. In other terms, they put in an amount. And so this bill allows the Chamorro Land Trust to consider those types of proposals or whatever process it decides to do. That was the only, well, you said now that there was a second Raceway Motorsports came in, and I don't know if they made a proposal or they just introduced themselves. That's what I saw in the meeting. But, so this to me seems viable because you've already had at least one offer for immediate activity, Raceway as is. They are willing to take it as is. They are willing to make a deal with the Chamorro Land Trust. Chamorro Land Trust was inhibited by existing laws and other things. And so this is trying to expedite their ability to consider these things by allowing them to subdivide the property and hopefully make a win-win, where if they're satisfied with the deal, they are able to get racing back to, or at least get it back to the nonprofit, and then it's up to the nonprofit to make it happen, and then deal with the other obligations of the land trust in turn. So there is nobody taking any property or anything away from the raceway. It's the opposite. I think that's very, I don't want anyone to leave here. I don't understand that rationale at all. It's like this actually is going to give them the opportunity to get it as soon as possible. And 60 days is very impressive if that's what happens.
That's our goal, Speaker.
All right, we'd like to ask the next, thank you again. We're going to invite the next panel. Thank you for those who are waiting. The next panel is John Birch, Thomas Farron, Peter Lombard, Hans Ada, Jay Jones, Joey Crisostomo. Let me see if they can fit. John Birch, Tomas Farron, Peter Lombard, Hans Ada, Jay Jones, Joey Crisostomo. Can you please check if John Birch Jr. is here? Did he leave? Oh, shoot. Right, so Mr. Birch, I was just about to say submitted written testimony, but thank you. All right, so we proceed. Mr. Birch, you're first.
Tess, hello. Thank you guys. Thank you for hearing us. Hafaday, Madam Speaker, senators that are all here, and all our enthusiasts. Thank you guys for showing up and sticking it out and waiting for this process and waiting for us to be heard. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to testify on Bill 287-3. My name is John Birch, and I am a passionate advocate for the Guam Raceway Park. As a symbol of family, the raceway holds great significance in our world. particularly in the land of the Chamorro, where family is everything. My love for motorsports began at a young age. Like many of us who cherish memories of holding the flashlight for their fathers during car repairs, I can empathize with the frustration of searching for the missing size 10 socket on every rail. And I have been fortunate enough to share the joy on my children's faces as they strip their first bolts. These experiences resonate deeply with fellow enthusiasts like us, evoking memories of our loved ones, whether it be our fathers, mothers, siblings, uncles, aunties, or children. Racing has a remarkable ability to bring families together and create lasting memories. If Bill number 287-37 is enacted into law, it will directly impact not only our motorsports community, but also our families. The Raceway serves as a vital space where we can bond, share our passion, and create enduring connections. The passing of this bill would have far-reaching consequences for the cherished moments we experience as families. I humbly request that you consider the profound impact this bill will have on our families and the entire motorsports community. Let us strive to preserve the symbol of unity and continue building lasting memories for generations to come. To my understanding, this bill aims to authorize the Chamorro Land Trust Committee or Commission to subdivide the 250-acre property known as the Guam Raceway Park. The purpose of this subdivision is to facilitate the operation of the raceway and related facilities and various outdoor events. However, an article in the PDN dated April 12, 2024 suggests that the legislation also opens up opportunities for residential and commercial leasing. This bill on the remaining lands. It is crucial that the authors of this bill clearly state its intent, as the motorsports community cannot financially compete with any large land development or quarrying companies. I want to strongly and unequivocally express my opposition to any quarrying, mining, grading, or other activities that may have happened or been undertaken by the previous organization, GRF. As a member of the motorsports community, we have unfortunately become unintended victims of GRF's actions. It is essential to clarify that the vast majority of us were not involved in, nor did we benefit from any questionable acts committed by the prior organization. I wholeheartedly support the CLTC, the senators, the Attorney General, and the public auditor in their efforts to thoroughly investigate and potentially prosecute any individuals found to have engaged in any wrongdoing. And I understand the concerns expressed by certain senators and CLTC commission members regarding the leasing opportunities to individuals associated with GRF who are believed to have been responsible for damaging the property within the Raceway Park. It is crucial to hold those accountable for who are found responsible that cause harm. I want to reiterate that I am no way affiliated with the GRF, both currently and in the past. Our motorsports community should not bear the consequence of GRF's actions. We should not be treated as criminals or outcasts, nor should we be excluded from the Raceway Park due to any association with the GRF. We deserve fair treatment and the opportunity to rebuild and revitalize our cherished motorsports facility. If the land must be subdivided as indicated in this bill, I respectfully urge this body to consider the diverse nature of motorsports and how each type operates. We have a range of activities such as drag racing, dirt biking, ATVs, bicycles, go-karts, motorcycles, unlimited vehicles, drifters, runners, and the list goes on and on and on. It is crucial to allocate specific areas for each discipline to ensure they're done properly and safely. While it has been claimed that much of the land is irreparably damaged and would require significant investment in land reclamation, I assure you that if given the opportunity, we can create a remarkable facility that not only accommodates the raceway, but also promotes cultural preservation and land conservation. Just as I can turn lemon into Kelaguen, I am confident in our ability to transform this land into a beautiful and multifaceted space. I kindly request your support in considering a subdivision that respects the diverse needs of our motorsports community while fostering cultural and environmental preservation. Together, we can create a facility not only that revitalizes the raceway, but also becomes a testament to the harmonious coexistence of our motorsports and our rich cultural heritage. I firmly believe in the potential for the collaboration between this legislative body and our motorsports community to find mutually beneficial solutions. While property taxes and monthly rent, of course, are going to be the biggest issues we're going to have to overcome, I know we can do this together. as long as we sit down and actually speak to each other. Considering the size of the property, do we truly need the 250 acres? That's what's always being asked of us. I believe a more focused approach is possible. Previously, approximately 127 acres were utilized for our purpose. And based on our estimations, around 150 acres would adequately meet our needs. By considering a more targeted allocation of land, we can make significant progress towards reopening the Guam Raceway Park. I kindly urge you to lend your support and assistance in facilitating the revival of the Guam Raceway Park. Together, and I mean together, we can create a vibrant, thriving motorsports facility that can benefit our whole community, not just the motorsports, but our whole community. Si Diyos Masi, thank you for hearing us out. Thank you for staying.
Thank you very much, Mr. Birch, and thank you for staying to present that testimony. And thank you for the written testimony as well. Mr. Farragut?
Good evening. My name is Tomas Heron. I'm here on my own accord. I'm not associated with any racing federation peoples. One of the things that I like to do is watch off-roading and going off-roading. I did buy me a 4x4 to go and do that, to participate in other events going on like with Smoking Wheels, but we can't no more because you guys took it away from us. I had nothing to do with that, and I cannot go and participate in all that stuff. There are trails for me to go out and around the island, but I'm a beginner. And if I was to go out there and have a little accident, a flat tire, broken axle, whatever, there will be a very difficult way for a tow truck to come and get me out. If we have this racetrack open and we can have ways to practice and do this in a safe way, if there is an accident, tow trucks are available, and we can easily go to the hospital versus if we're out and about around the island. That was my main thing. My second one was, I did not want to bring this up, but the Chamorro Land Trust brought this up. In 1997, I signed the lease in Jigo. We're told we have 7 years from when they put the infrastructure in to build a house. I'm still waiting. So if you want to include the Chamorro Land Trust in this, I would suggest that all they are is just the landlord. They don't have any say in what's going to go happen with that land. They will mess it up. They can't follow with the promises that they made to us back in 1997. When we had that meeting afterwards, one person asked Governor Therese, what will happen after 99 years? What's going to happen to the lease? His answer was, and I remember this, he doesn't know, he doesn't care because he'll be dead. That's what he said to us. So in 99 years, well, that was 27 years ago. I have 7 years to build a house. I can't build one. I'm a disabled vet. I can't use the VA to get a loan. I can't do nothing with that land unless I save up the money and build, day by day. We were promised by the Chamorro Land Trust they're going to have power, water, roads. There was a nice little map of that area. There was supposed to be a playground, a school, a lot of stuff in that area. Nothing has happened. I can visit my land, my property, because I do clear it every once in a while, but there are junk cars inside the jungle. I did bring that up to the Chamorro Land Trust when I went there, and they said they're going to have someone come and check out the area. No one has got back to me about that. So for 27 years, the Chamorro Land Trust hasn't done anything for there. I think they will do nothing again for this. Like what they did now, they said their stuff and they left, which is what they did to us in 1997. I do not appreciate that. Say, oh, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. I'm still waiting. I have a lease. I can't do nothing with it. Now, if the mayors and the senators and the governor all get together and make a commission to oversee this racetrack so that everything will be on the up and up, I think that will be the best. Make sure that the Chamorro Land Trust, they have proven to us that they cannot handle themselves. That's all I'm asking. Have somebody else besides them handle this racetrack. Thank you.
Mr. Fairman. Dr. Lombard.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, speakers, members of the 37th. My name is Peter Lombard. I'm one of the board members on the Guam Cycling Federation, also on the Athletes Commission for the Guam National Olympic Committee. I come as a cyclist, as a member of indeed a very small group of cyclists that has been beneficiaries of having access to the Guam Raceway Park. I believe the Cycling Federation, GCF, pays a certain amount, traditionally had paid a certain amount to the Raceway Park for us to be able to access the trails there, to be able to train and also host races there. So talking specifically about mountain biking, and as some of you may know, I represented Guam in the Rio Olympics in mountain biking, and it was one of the greatest honors of my life. Now, when I was training, I basically had three options. I had, the Red Dirt Channel 10 area, including the Leo Palace, Two Lovers Point area, and Guam Raceway Park. And, some of those may be going away someday. Channel 10 and Leo Palace developments. We've been losing space to ride at Two Lovers Point, and now obviously we're sort of in limbo here about how much of this land, may still be accessible for us. And, we're not mountain bikers. We like the natural trails. Obviously, we like terrain. We like challenging up and downs, twists and turns. And so, for us, looking at the map here, there's only kind of a small portion that correlates with some of the parcels that were shown earlier. We actually like this area here in the forest, the switchbacks and the single track. So for us, that's sort of the ideal scenario, to be able to have a course, a race loop that can take advantage of a lot more of this area here. So, but I definitely appreciate the history. This was educational for me, and I understand there's a lot of competing interests. I hope that in good faith all the parties can continue to come together to work towards a solution. But from our perspective, from an athlete's perspective, we have very limited opportunities to train and adequate and suitable trails for us to train on in our cycling community and for the mountain bikers. And so humbly ask for an opportunity to just continue to be able to come to the table with any of the groups that are either subleasing. We don't have a lot of funds to say, hey, we want to train on these trails, but we don't have a lot of money to be able to say we can do that. But as long as we're given the opportunity to be at the table with the Cycling Federation, that would mean a lot to us.
Thank you, Dr. Lombard and Guam Cycling Federation. All right. Mr. Ada?
Afade, Speaker Terlaje, Senator Barnett, Honorable Senators of the 37th Guam Legislature. My name is Hans Ada. We'd like to thank you for recognizing the importance of Guam Raceway Park to our community, and we are grateful to provide testimony on Bill 287-37. It has been a long and difficult year without a racetrack, and forward momentum to open the raceway is encouraged and appreciated. The Guam Motorsports Association is a new, fresh voice for motorsports enthusiasts whose sole purpose is to promote motorsports and the growth of our diverse sport on Guam. GMA was formed and exists to responsibly and professionally operate and maintain the Raceway Park, and we'd like to make it clear that we do not want to grade on this site. This is significantly different from the prior agreement between Chamorro Land Trust and Guam Racing Federation, where the proceeds from the sale of aggregate went to CLTC funds. Critical points to consider for Bill 287-37. Guam law currently allows for the CLTC to issue public purpose licenses for situations like this, where the property will be used to benefit the public. Bill 287-37 prevents the CLTC from entering into a public purpose license for the Raceway Park. This is detrimental to our motorsports community and will further delay any hope of reopening the raceway. GMA appreciates Guam Legislature's past approval for tax credits and lease on CLTC's Lot 7161-R1. GMA is advocating for parity with other sporting recreational organizations such as football, rugby, tennis, sailing, soccer, and so many others who enjoy decade-long leases for public use. For example, Guam Tennis Federation enjoys a 50-year lease at $1 a year, no property taxes. Guam Rugby Union enjoys a 20-year license for $0 a year, no property taxes. Mariana's Yacht Club enjoyed a 30-year lease at $100 a year, and most recently was approved for a 10-year lease in January 2024. The football community at Hells Angels Field enjoyed a 21-year lease for $0 a year, no property taxes. Guam Football Association, GFA, enjoys a 30-year lease for $1 a year. The Cltc already has authority under Guam law to enter into commercial licenses and leases through 21 GCA subsection 75A122. This bill requires the same process but limits who can submit proposals and purpose of the Raceway Park. Again, it seems inconsistent to use the process for a commercial license and lease when the sole purpose is that the Raceway Park can be used for public purposes. We recommend that 21 GCA subsection 75A107, which allows Cltc to grant a public use license. Cltc already has the authority to do this. Our community needs a multi-purpose park where our motorsports community, cyclists, walkers, runners can gather and use. We are ready and prepared to operate and maintain the Raceway Park and hope for the legislature's support. We humbly request GMA be given the authorization to open the Raceway immediately. Since the eviction and closure of the Raceway more than 1 year ago, our community will need months of cleanup and maintenance to bring it back on track. In summary, we know this bill could be strong with a few amendments. Include an immediate opening which will allow us to begin the much-needed cleaning, maintenance, and refurbishing. Replace 21 GCA subsection 75A122 with 21 GCA subsection 75A107, which authorizes the public use facility as opposed to a commercial lease. Amend the portion of the bill that includes subdividing the property, as this could drastically reduce the trail portions of the Raceway meant for biking, running, hiking, and off-roading. Include a 30-year public use facility agreement. It is near impossible to raise funds and donations for a property that can only guarantee a 5-year lease. Thank you again for your time and effort in putting Bill 28737 on the table for discussion. We believe with these much-needed amendments, this bill will benefit the entire motorsports and endurance community who have long called Guam International Raceway home. Respectfully, Guam Motorsports Association.
Can you say the association again?
Guam Motorsports Association.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Jones.
Off-a-day Speaker Terlaje, Senator Barnett, and honorable senators of the 37th Legislature. Excuse me. My name is Jay Jones, and I've been a motorsports enthusiast since my father taught me how to ride a dirt bike when I was 8 years old. Since that time, I've participated in just about every kind of motorsports discipline practiced locally, most recently racing off-road trucks and buggies at the Guam International Raceway. First, I'd like to thank you for realizing the importance of the Raceway to our community by introducing Bill 287-37. After 384 days without progress towards reopening our only motorsports facility, the introduction of this bill is a welcome development. When the Guam Racing Federation was evicted in early June 2023, I, along with other concerned enthusiasts, felt the need to do what we could to help reopen the track. I do not, nor have I ever, had any financial motivation for my involvement in this effort. I am a sportsman that simply desires a professional environment to practice my sport safely and responsibly. Myself and other like-minded individuals formed the Guam Motorsports Association to help achieve this goal. Despite many who have mistakenly believed otherwise, motorsports are not a commercial venture. The success of the annual Smoke and Wheels event may have given some that idea, but the reality is that the other 51 weeks of the year, the Raceway Park requires much more money to maintain it than it could ever generate from entry fees and ticket sales. Because of this, the idea that the motorsports community would be asked to enter into a commercial lease for the property is surprising. Why other sporting communities on island are given leases and licenses for vast properties practically for free, while we are being treated as a commercial enterprise is frankly baffling. The hundreds of families that spend their free time at the Raceway simply ask to be treated similar to the other sporting communities on island. A public purpose lease or license agreement to occupy the property would accomplish this task and show the island motorsports community that they are valued the same as those that participate in football, rugby, tennis, sailing, or any of the other island communities. Another surprising aspect of the bill is the concept of subdividing the property. As you can see from the map provided by GMA, there's a large copy here, and I believe you each have been given copies as well. Nearly all of the property is being utilized by one sports discipline or another. Those areas that are not utilized are either conservation areas that have been forbidden for us to use by various government agencies, or they're planned for future development. As our community grows, be it organically or through the military buildup, the need for dedicated recreational areas will only become more critical. These expansion areas allow us to meet those growing needs while preserving and protecting our island as a whole by focusing motorsports activities in one controlled area. Without a dedicated raceway facility, motorsports enthusiasts will practice their passion wherever possible, creating the potential for environmental damage as well as risking the safety of themselves and the general public. I believe it's important to note that the main reason this property has the potential for subdivision is all of the years of work and millions of dollars invested by the motorsports community in improvements. When the land was leased, it was acres of jagged limestone, whereas now much of it is fenced, paved, and lighted with two-story buildings, parking for hundreds of vehicles, and concrete bleachers for thousands of sports fans. It seems a terrible shame if all of this effort by and on behalf of the motorsports community were to be chopped off and sold off to the highest bidder, leaving our community with fewer recreational facilities. Furthermore, if this facility is subdivided and goes out for commercial bid, we can all be fairly certain of what will happen. Because of its proximity to the military buildup, most of it, if not all, will go to build-up related industries to support their contracts. I believe that many on island feel that we have already sacrificed enough land to this cause and would like to see this property dedicated to the enjoyment of the people of Guam. In closing, I'd like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to let our voices be heard. The last year without a racetrack facility has made all of us appreciate what a special place we had and has strengthened our resolve to see it come back to life again. With your help, we can make that happen. Let's get back on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Crisostomo?
Hafaday, Speaker Terlaje, and Senators. My name is Joey Crisostomo, and I've been a racer since I was 11 years old. So I'm probably one of the guys Senator Barnett's talking about being one of the 99% old faces. I'm probably one of them, right? But my passion for racing, seeing my grandkids, my son, my daughter using the racetrack, keeps me out there wanting to support to help make this thing happen. When we closed the track 12 months ago, we've gone to the Chamorro Land Trust 6 months straight, and yet nothing's happened. A lot of it's due to no legal representation, but still nothing's happened. That is frustrating. And to come to this and hear what's happening, what happened at GRF without them here to defend themselves and talk about the audited reports, the LIDAR reports that show how much is taken out of that area, it doesn't seem right. Like John Burt says, we need to work together. And I think the easiest way is to get Henry Simpson. If you guys have a lot of questions, get Henry Simpson here, get the contractors here, get the attorneys here, and hash it out. We could have done that 10 months ago, right? And then we'll have answers. There has been, mistakes made in all areas, from the Chamorro Land Trust to GITA to the Guam Racing Federation. That has happened. We know that, right? Nobody held anybody accountable. Nobody did the reporting that was supposed to be done. We can clear the issues if you guys do it. Make it happen. Get these groups together and let's talk and hash it out. And being one of the older guys out here and part of that, seeing that track grow from 1998 when the lease was done, which Honorable Paul Bordalio and Governor Ricky Bordalio both were very, very supportive of racing. I've attended races as a kid when Governor Bordalio was waving the checkered flag to me up at Apra Heights. He conducted a drag racing on Marine Drive. They were proponents of this bill of turning this property over to the Racing Federation. This 252 acres back in 1998 was not feasible for commercial use, residential use, or even agricultural use. It was a limestone jungle, a limestone forest. Look to the south of it. Is any development happening there? Nothing, right? So millions of dollars have been put in to this track, to build that racetrack, to build the facilities, to get everybody going. Millions of dollars has been put into that track to make it happen. And a big portion of that came from, you know, the government's tax incentives, which helped. That's really, really helped. That's a good program that other sporting organizations have now adopted to build their facilities. We need to look at that as we want to build this track back up. Over the past 10 years, the track has really evolved. The park has really evolved from a motorsports park to a more sports park, sports complex. You've heard the testimonies you've had. I mean, there's a kids' trench race there, hundreds of kids, 6 years old to 12 years old, racing through the course there, running the course, running through the mud bog area, and so forth. The adults do the same thing there too. There's mountain bike races. The largest mountain bike race that we have is at the race park. It's a 6-hour endurance race, 6 hours from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. So imagine at 6 p.m., you got to put lights on the bikes. It's really the neatest thing. And we have a lot of families out there supporting. Over 100 bicyclists are out there to race. And the attendance we get at that racetrack is more than double than we do when we had to hold it at Two Lovers Point last year. Last year at Two Lovers Point, there was not enough, we didn't have a lot of participants because it's dangerous. We had tourists driving their cars up and down the street, kids running up and down, crossing streets. It wasn't feasible for them. So the track has really evolved. You know, we get more and more walkers and runners. We get families go out there to teach their kid how to ride a bicycle. It's the safest environment to do that. And all of us in here have ridden bicycles. And this new organization you're talking about, you know, seeing these guys, there's 11 of us right now on the board, and it's going to be an ever-changing board as we evolve, is the minds and passion and energy in that room. They're going to move things, make things happen. They're going to move things and make things happen. It's going to get better. They've got ideas for you know, a walking path. Use the drag strip for walking, maybe 3-4 times a week. Imagine a safe place that you can walk and run and not worry about cars. Open it up, say, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. GIGO lost their walking area when Andy South was closed. That used to be a popular walking spot, exercise spot. That was closed as the buildup started. They have nowhere else to go walk. They've got to go to Dedito or Harmon to do that. And meeting with Mayor Sanchez, he was an advocate for how can he get his residents more involved, have more activities for them to do. He even talked about a northern market. Just imagine having a northern market up there. Your 3 most populated villages are right there surrounding the racetrack: GIGO, Dedito, and Manila. Imagine having a northern market there once a month to help the communities out there. So it's evolved. It's really evolved as a park and not just motorsports. It's not just a motorsports park anymore. And then you have the concerts, you have the instructor training of buses, fire trucks, motorcyclists, the police motorcyclists. There's so much that goes on at that track that it would be detrimental to the community, to the island, to our people, to keep it closed. Right now, to compete in motorsport races, we have to go off island to compete. We have to go off island just to practice. I was talking to some of the drifters that they did a drift demonstration at Nissan Motors, and that was kind of scary. That was sketchy. But yet they needed a place to do it. It was organized and it was done, but it's not the best place to do that. There's a place sitting idle right now that can handle that. When our racers are at the track racing, it keeps them off the streets. They're not racing, they're not drifting, burning out at Paseo Loop or at Paseo. And now this new roundabout in Tamuning, I'm just waiting to see if a drifter can go all the way around that, you know. Because, you know, as racers, it's hard to explain. We have to have a release of our energy to go fast. The adrenaline is there. And now we have to go off island to do that. I went on a trip, just a vacation, and what did I do? I went looking for racetracks. I got to drive 2 different racetracks in race carts, and I had so much fun, but I can't do that in my own island. And that's a shame. To make this work, you know, let's look at some options here on how to make it work. Is moving it from a commercial lease to a public purpose lease or license. You know, follow what the government's doing with these other sporting events or sporting areas, right? Why do we need to change that? There's not going to be revenue from racing because there's going to be no more rock quarrying, right? We're not going to be sharing the sale of minerals, the sale of coral. There's none of that. We need to change the term to 30 years, 20 or 30 years. And it was talked about how large investments, how much it costs to invest in the facility there. We've got to build some new buildings. We've got to make some new barriers. And if the budget say $200,000 and a sponsor wants to come in and help, they might say, okay guys, we can do this, but we want to do it at $20,000 a year for 10 years. We can give you a check for $200,000, but we want to be a major sponsor of the drag strip for $20,000 a year, at $20,000 a year. That's feasible for most big, large companies. But they're not going to do it for 5 years. They're not going to say, okay, we'll do this and we'll give you $40,000 a year. Their marketing budget, no one's going to use that much of their marketing budget for that. So we do need a longer time period. And senators, I do want to say what we have at that racetrack is a gem. It's valuable. There's so much, that's there for the community, and not just us racers. A lot of places would die for what we have right now. Hawaii, we have what Hawaii wants. There is no racetrack in Oahu. However, the Navy just returned 400 acres of land last week to the city and county of Honolulu. What do they plan on doing with those 400 acres? Are they building homes? No, they're building a racetrack. What they plan to do is build a sports complex to include a motorsports racetrack under the control of Parks and Recreation. That's in Hawaii. They know that people need to have a safe place to race and test their cars, motorcycles, and off-road vehicles. Right now, the drifters there, they have a drift agreement with the Aloha Stadium parking lot, that's where they drift. But they also have an arrangement with the members that if they're caught drifting illegally out on the streets, they're going to be suspended from competing in their events. There's a lot of illegal drifting, drag racing, off-road racing, riding and stuff right now on our streets, and a lot of the accidents that have come out are directly from that. I was told last week that the lady that died up in Jigo, she pulled out and a car hit her. There was 2 cars racing with their lights off, and she didn't see them. And how many more times is that going to have to happen to do that? Hawaii, what they're doing, they're so excited they're moving forward, and they're planning on using CIP funds to build this track. So, it's a win-win. We talk about win-win. It's a win-win for the government. It's a win-win for our people. And we hope you'll be open, Madam Speaker, to talk to us and meet with us and find ways to make it work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crisostomo. Mr. Tedingo, what's your name, sir?
I'm Ryan Castro. I'm one of the 11 board members in the newly formed Guam Motorsports
Did I call your name?
Association.
Yeah, so Mr. Castro.
I was supposed to speak on behalf of John Birch.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But he came back in, so.
All right, thanks. Well, The rest of the panel will be yes. So the next panel is Eric Tidinko, Jeff Jones, Ryan Castro, Jay Xiao, Angel Sablan, Joseph I. Cruz. Okay, so we've got Eric Tidinko, John Birch already done, Jeff Jones, Ryan Castro, Jay Xiao or Xiao? Is that you? Thank you. Angel Sablan, Joseph I. Cruz, and sorry, one more. Oh. Martin Gerber. Oh, there's Angel. Okay, so, all right, we'll stop there. Martin Gerber? If not here, then Eddie Cruz? What's wrong, Sarge? Oh, no, he hasn't yet, Mr. Castro. Yes, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Tidinko.
Thank you very much, Speaker Terlaje. Senator Barnett's not here, and fellow senators. I'm representing the Guam Cycling Federation, and you know, I had something prepared, but I think I already turned that in. So I'm just going to reiterate some of the points that were made earlier, which was that the bill as it stands, I think I stand and the Guam Cycling Federation stand in support of the recommendations made by the newly formed Guam Motorsports Association, which they call for a few things. One of them is to make certain amendments to that. For one, to grant a public use license to them for the entire raceway park, and not to subdivide. And I'll get to that in a second. Open the raceway park immediately for the Guam Motorsports Association to begin preparing the grounds for use. And then entertain, I think seriously entertain what Mr. Grisalsimo has advocated for, which is a longer term lease. I know that Senator Brown brought that up as a major point of investment. Nobody's going to want to invest in something when there's only a 5-year lease that's being floated in front of them. So I do appreciate the understanding that the senators have for what the Motorsports Association has to deal with. For us, not subdividing the property is important for the Guam Cycling Federation because, as Dr. Lombard pointed out, we have limited areas for us to mountain bike. As the island grows in population and areas for development continue to expand, these trails that we recreate on and that we practice on and that we train on, they dwindle. And to the point where we're very worried about the future of our mountain bike, not just the mountain bike community, but our athletes that aspire to go to the Olympics. Dr. Lombard represented Guam at the Rio Olympics in mountain biking, and as he mentioned, he had year-round training for that. Derek Horton, who is a local business person, has represented Guam in mountain biking, and he uses that facility also, or he used that facility for year-round training. And the thing that is not pointed out, and that Dr. Lombard did not point out, is that that's the only place that mountain bikers can ride year-round, no matter what the weather conditions. The red dirt area up in Leo Palace and the Menengan Hills is very popular when it's dry, but it's unrideable. And it's unusable for people with bicycles when it's muddy. You can't move the bikes. But because of the terrain up there and the limestone and how quickly it percolates water, we've actually we actually had a race up there, a race series called the Monsoon Mountain Bike Series, because even when it's pouring torrential rains, we can still hold a mountain bike race up there in those trails that go a little further north of the racetrack. And so that's what I wanted to impart to the senators to consider, is that, you know, I'm not part of the motorsports community, but I'm here in support of what they would like to do, which is to remain status quo with the property as is and get them opened up so that they can continue to do what they do, and then we can continue to also take advantage of that, you know, really incredible property up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tydinko. Mr. Jones.
Good evening. Hafa Speaker Terlaje, Senator Barnett, and the honorable senators of the 37th Guam Legislature. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 28737. Bill 28737 in its current form would not be a workable solution to return racing to the Guam Raceway Park for the following reasons. Bill 28737 authorizes the CLTC to subdivide Lot 7161R1 into separate and existing raceways infrastructure, separate the existing raceway infrastructure. However, the Guam racing community represented here today by the Guam Motorsports Association requires the entire property for the continuation of the activities that previously took place at the Guam Raceway Park. I'm talking about racing activities, not illegal activities. Please see the attached Guam International Raceway diagram for specific purposes and uses for the property. This is the one that's on display here. Bill 28737 authorizes CLTC to enter into a commercial lease for the subdivided portion for up to 5 years for the operation of a raceway. Unfortunately, the GMA as a nonprofit cannot afford to pay commercial lease rates, and the 5-year term is not long enough to properly develop and maintain the property for the Guam racing community. We are requesting a 30-year license or lease for public use at a rate equivalent to other nonprofits, sports organizations leasing public lands for community benefit. The Tennis Federation, soccer, football, rugby, yacht club, all been mentioned prior. It is my understanding that 21 GCA subsection 75A107 allows for this. Bill 28737 requires all taxes, fees, and assessments levied on the property to be borne by the lessee or licensee. We are requesting that taxes and fees be waived similar to the other public land leases to nonprofit sports organizations. Should our above suggested amendments be approved, we would also request an appropriation to assist GMA in expediting the repairs and renovations required due to Typhoon Mawar damage and vandalism that has taken place since the facilities have been closed. We were able to visit the site a few days ago with the approval of CLTC just to assess the property, and we estimate that there's probably a couple $100,000 worth of damage and repairs that need to be made there. Our island needs a multi-purpose park where our motorsports community, cyclists, walkers, and runners can gather to enjoy the use. We are ready, willing, and able to operate and maintain the Raceway Park and hope for legislature's support. Sincerely, Jeff Jones, Board Member, Guam Motorsports Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Castro.
Hafa Speaker Terlaje, honorable senators. I'm Ryan Castro. I'm part of the Guam Motorsports Association board as well. A lot of the testimony that came before me from the Guam Motorsports, they touched on the key points. So some things that I would like to mention, of course, is the Chamorro Land Trust came up here, gave the history of Chamorro Land Trust and their mission. And I want to know, I'm hoping that everyone understands the history of the racetrack and everything. And I know when we talk about motorsports, we're always thinking of adults and people involved, but there's a lot of kids. There's kids that are racing out there there's kids that have been coming to the front of the legislature to try to show that they're passionate, and it's going to continue to grow. This group ain't getting any smaller. I'm hoping that you saw the amount of support that's been reaching out and coming out and standing up there. So there's clearly amendments that we are trying to propose to the bill that's been the intended bill that's out on the floor. So I'm hoping that you guys can come to that solution. We've been through COVID, we've been through Typhoon Mawar, and I think we've been finding a lot of solutions to what the island's been facing, and I think this is not that hard to decide on. I'm glad the Chamorro Land Trust went before us, and just hearing some of the questions you asked them, taking 252 acres compared to their inventory and the problems they probably have, I'm not sure, you know, and when you ask to subdivide and you question, what do you need to do with the property after subdivide, and there's no plan, I think that there's all these proposals, and they need to have plans ahead of time besides just asking it back, and then the property just stays very dormant, and there's no use of the property. I can reassure you with the meetings we have that we got a clear plan to not just open the racetrack to get just street racers off, and the bicycling community is here, there's people that run on foot. We also spoke to Jigo Mayor, and public safety was his #1 concern. We also talked about having more events, like how they have the Chamorro Village stuff, they have the Mingilao Doni Festival. He reiterated that, the Jigo Gym is not a safe place for him. He doesn't have enough parking space, he doesn't have enough space for the vendors, stuff like that. So, and like Mr. Crisostomo mentioned, the running track was taken from the federal government, and his people are going down to Derero. We have a running track up there, and we rest assured that, that's getting the community, not just you, but we're opening that up to the island of Guam. And I come on behalf of representing the people of Guam. We're a nonprofit group. We put a lot of love time to hear people speak on behalf of them, and the community's been speaking, and I hope that, we hear them and we serve them right. And that's basically what I got, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Shao.
Hello, thanks for having me here. Sitting around, hearing testimony from everybody. My family, we used to race when it was on Marine Drive. Our family's been around the racing scene ever since. And, to have a track finally, a place where everybody can unite and do their thing, it's really cool. There's a lot of us that grew up with it. I remember growing up when the track used to be on Cross Island, and it was a whole family gathering, and it's my grandfather afforded all of us to chase a passion, and that's all we've been doing, building race cars, racing, everything from dirt bikes to four-wheelers. We'll race on a bicycle, it doesn't matter. And the situation that we're facing, it's kind of wild right now. We got a park that was taken from all of the people because of some action that had nothing to do with us. And now we have this new bill here to pass over, I guess, what would be considered power to Chamorro Land Trust to decide how long to lease out to, who to lease out to. They want to subdivide. And, some of the things they were asked was, if they were to divide the property, would it go back to the people it was intended for, like for housing, for farming? And one sentence, they said, not really too sure about that, maybe more commercial buildings that could assist in like racing. So maybe like a speed shop, or maybe a bicycle shop or something like that. I wouldn't mind getting land over there, putting a house on it, and putting a garage so I can also enjoy the racetrack. My issue I have with this is that, and I've said it in here before, is 1995, there's a list of people been waiting. My grandfather's still on there until now. You know, and he's been gone for, what, 40 years, 35 years now? And he's still on the list. I went over to my uncle. We're still waiting. And we talked about how much revenue they got from the track. It was a $2 million plus. And we asked what they've done with it. Have they put in any infrastructure? And the answer was like a couple of telephone poles or something like that, you know, $40,000 worth. And I'm just wondering where the rest of the money went and when will it go to the people that they've been entrusted to take care of. I want to support the track opening as soon as possible, but I think there's a lot of things here that needs to be addressed. I think passing them power to do whatever they want with it, for us to compete against other commercial bidders, you know, we would definitely be priced out just as motorsports enthusiasts. I'm not affiliated with any of the groups right now, other than that we all share a passion, and you know, when I see them, and it's always a good time. With more and more testimonies that came on, and as Tremont Land Trust was talking, I guess there's just a big problem with access to this property, access to the funds that Cltc already has. There's always something that they can push forward, which doesn't make sense. There's a whole list that should be addressed. I threw an event at the Cultural Center in Tumon, and you know, it had to do with cannabis. And within 1 week of the flyer coming out, they were able to have this meeting, have all these signatures signed, and deliver a paper to us the day before the event, telling us they didn't sanction our event, and these are the rules and laws that we're, you know, breaking if we go forward. And we just got in touch with all of our friends and family. We got in touch with legal, and we solved it, and we still had the event. But my point of that is that list in 1995. How did my event, all these decades later, take precedence over everything else? How many people's dying waiting for land? How many people can't afford to even live on the island anymore? How many more residents do we have to lose to another part of the world that's cheaper to raise their kids? I don't know what we got to do, but man, all of you guys, we need you guys. We need to figure it out. Passing permission over to Tremont Land Trust to, you know, that didn't even oversee what they were supposed to oversee in the first place. They couldn't answer if the old federation would be allowed to come in and take over the track again. Like there's nothing in place there. It's kind of just open. Like we'll figure that out. We got to have a meeting. We got to check with our legal. I hope that part of that $2 million is not just being spent on legal, what they can and cannot do, versus putting infrastructure in and getting people onto these properties so that, you know, we can thrive. We're still suffering from the war. You know, there's a lot of PTSD going on that we don't talk about from our ancestors or our elders that have already passed, that passed on to our you know, uncles, aunties. We need time to heal. We need to get this track up somehow. And I don't think that this exactly is clear enough for, you know, for myself to just be like, let's do it. But I'm ready to support. I like that this bill is even here. I'm glad that we're even talking about anything. You know, it shows that we're not just being, you know, overlooked. We're being heard. We're being seen. The racing community is very huge. I promise you that. So, with that said, I got a couple other things here. Let me just try to pull this up. If we're gonna do this how it's written, what I'm concerned about is commercial leases. Is it gonna be people that's from the island of Guam? Is it just gonna be big box businesses that can come in and get these leases? You know, because they can obviously bid more than we can. In the racing world, it's crazy. We spend all of our money, down to the last pennies, just to go a little faster, just to build the car, just to fix what we broke. So we are not broke, but we also are not very rich. You know, so the way it's written, where we're gonna have to bid against other people, I don't think that we'd be able to afford it, especially like a lot of people had spoke about this 5-year lease. man, you can't do a lot in 5 years, you know, and there's a lot to be done up there. I think if we could fix this, this is something that Guam can definitely be proud of. We know that we got racers from Japan that come in and other parts of the world. So if we can just get it right, you know, if we're afforded the opportunity to not like repeat the same mistakes as the Guam Racing Federation did or whatnot, man, we could actually have something to offer the rest of the world, not just the beaches in Tumon, you know. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shah. Mr. Sapan, Director.
Good evening, Speaker Terlaje and esteemed members, senators. When I wrote this testimony, I was still thinking it would be still afternoon when I present it. So, bonito na pupuengin Zeus. I am Ranger Sablan, Acting Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Today I come here not so much to testify on the pros and cons of 287, but I come here to plead with you the importance of opening the Calvo Memorial Raceway Park, the Guam International Park in Jigo. Every week, either I get calls or I'm approached by any venue by auto enthusiasts urging me to make the Paseo de Susana parking lot available for burnouts, drifting, drag racing, and anything a car can be made to do. The simple answer is, I can't. I care too much for the safety of those who ask and those that want to display their vehicles and their skills, and those who come to watch to allow anything than just a simple display of vehicles to happen at the Paseo parking lot. Mind you, even my son is an enthusiast. And when I found out that he was one of those that used Paseo with his friends, I didn't get mad. I became embarrassed because it seems that as a government leader that I failed him and so many others. With the closure of the Calvo Memorial Park in 2023, I feel the pain of the men and women that were here and those that are still here and out there in social platform land, and I want to help alleviate the nagging need to test their skills behind the wheel in a safe environment from regular vehicular traffic and human footfall. As a favorite pedestrian sports and recreation park nestled between the Philippine Sea and our Chamorro village, the Paseo just isn't the proper place for auto anything at any hour except for parking and possibly a romantic conversation with your loved one as you enjoy the ocean. But there are literally hundreds of high-performance car hobbyists and more clubs in Guam than you and I can count. They are itching for action and need an outlet. Our island has always been car crazy, and home tune-ups and the attachment of aftermarket parts on mass production vehicles have long been ingrained in the local popular culture. And it should be. Hobbies allow us to express our creativity and constitute an integral part of what it means to live free. The men and women who spend their own time tinkering with cars, trucks, motorcycles, and small motor vehicles are doing what they love while sharing knowledge, accumulating priceless work experience, and sharpening their social skills as they team up on rebuilds, paint jobs, and installations. When the tracks at the raceway were operational, these folks even ran their own racing teams. As long as they are not hurting anyone, the government of Guam should cooperate with auto hobby groups to support their favorite pastime. A free society needs arts, sports, and leisure to thrive. In short, each of us requires that feeling of release that the human spirit craves and strives to attain. We all work hard to make life more livable and better for the next generation. Shared interests and outlets give us worthy outcomes to work towards and enjoy, and they help keep our sense of liberty intact. So for the auto enthusiasts of our community, I say put the guardrails back up. Encourage auto racing safety at a secure facility designed specifically for the craft. Reopen the Calvo Memorial Raceway Park. Although Gulf Guam was not able to come to terms with the last group that operated the now shuttered raceway, that should not mean that the Chamorro Land Trust Commission that controls the property should allow a priceless public asset to go the way of weeds and rust. The saying goes, build it and they will come. The Calvo Memorial Raceway Park has been built, but they can't come. Why does it have to be this way? The raceway is designed and built as an outlet for auto racing, car shows, and spectators. It's time to open up Calvo Memorial Park again. No matter what option this legislative body takes in the bills that have been proposed, the only option that is not acceptable is the status quo option. You can't leave these folks with their cars started, but remain in the neutral gear and never move. Otherwise, law-abiding motorists are likely to find themselves competing with race car drivers who turn our streets into drag strips and drift lanes whenever they think they can get away with it. Risk is a part of the thrill of racing. The sooner we make it safe for this subculture to burn rubber away from the daily come-and-go traffic, the better. I have met with these various auto clubs and have spoken with Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, and we all agree that something has got to give. Let us give the Calvo Memorial Race Park the function it was built and designed for. Let us not wait for tragedy to happen from an otherwise popular sport. Jesus Masi, Angel Sublime.
Jesus Masi, Director, is that a DPR testimony?
Yes,
or?
yes it is.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cruz.
I guess they're saving me for last because probably going to stir the pot so bad the Estefao is going to get spoiled. Anyway, I had a planned testimony, but I think I'm going to shoot from the hip. And it's mostly because of all the questions and the criticism that I've heard tonight that I've kind of been ashamed of. I probably was the youngest person that was the architect of the law that created the Guam Raceway Park. The late Sonny Shelton, John Camacho, even people like Albert Pabletti, who was a DPW engineer at first. We all did the drawings and contributed to all the regulations. Many of us went to national sanctioning bodies and international sanctioning bodies to figure what was the best road to take to build a racetrack. Unfortunately, some of them had bigger dreams, like Henry Simpson wanted to do Formula 3 racing and stuff like that. And it was that frenzy that was fed to the organization, part of the government, but even before the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, that we were seeking property from. And we did studies for 5 years over every topographical map of this island, including military-owned properties. Because as you know, we originally raced at a Rhodey Point Raceway under the graces of the U.S. Navy, but eventually got evicted. I was probably one of those responsible individuals, or irresponsible individuals, to talk Madeline and Ricky Burdett into having Marine Drive drags. And Ricky had already accused me of being the next person that was going to be excommunicated by the bishop because we're racing it downtown and Marine Drive in front of the church. But anyway, to make a long story short, I'm gonna try to touch on a few questions because we'll be here all night if I answer every one of the questions you guys had and all the criticism that was here. But if you go and just please read the law that created the racetrack. everything will be answered there. You have your safeguards, you have everything. I was originally on the board for the first 15 years racetrack. We were praised as the next Jesus Christ. We took racing off the streets. I won't mention the judge's name, but I even took her to Two Lovers Point to show her how serious these people were racing and how reckless they were and how badly we needed to come up with a plan with Department of Public Works and the Guam Police Department to take this racing off the streets, and we were successful. I was the first president of the Drag Racing Association Guam. I ran the drag racing until you guys closed it down. And I wrote the book on the safety rules and the regulations. Some of the safety rules and regulations were even copied by all the other organizations under the Guam Racing Federation at the park. With the marketing genius like Tom Akagami and Nate DeKnight, who was your GVB director for a while there, we created programs internationally. Chris Barnett knows. We did crazy stuff. 52 weeks out of the year, we had events, sometimes 3 events in a week. I'm a civil engineer, and I had a very profitable business. And when I became on the board of the Guam Racing Federation, I almost went bankrupt because I spent 4 days a week at the racetrack making sure that maintenance and security were at most, making sure that safety, cross-training and training my track officials with the Guam Fire Department and the Guam Police Department. We did EVOC training. We did motor carrier training. We did all kinds of stuff that had values to the community that most people do not know. We were praised for many years for smoking wheels, that GVB, even though there wasn't a direct way to measure the value of the industry that was created by the racetrack being there as an attraction, we were able to track our abilities with Guam Community College and some of the automotive people like the Joneses, Joey Crisostomo, because we created these side businesses. We created these specialty shops that modified vehicles. We created interest in technicians to work on these vehicles. Before the racetrack came, there was a shortage of technicians. There weren't a lot of mechanics. We call them mechanics back in the old days. It's trial by error. You fix it. If you fix it, it's good. If you don't fix it, keep trying, keep charging the customer until you get it right. Well, technology came along. We got computers. Got a little better, but then the technicians had to get a little smarter. They had to know how to run those computers. The Joneses will tell you the rest of the story because it is a success. And they benefited. Cars Plus benefited. AK benefited. In fact, every one of those dealerships had race teams that came to the track. They thought seriously enough that we were important. We trained a lot of kids. We even had a program where kids that didn't even have their driver's license could come out and learn how to drive a car, could participate in events that would gear them towards it. We had a junior dragster program that was from 11 to 15 years old. They could drag race down the drag strip. I went personally to NHRA, SCORE, SODA, all these organizations that do sanctioning events in the States, and we copied a lot of their operational rules. For that reason, I must say, though, that I kind of bet against this bill of doing these short licensure periods because you're never going to get the liability insurance. You're never going to get things settled out where you have these organized events that are sanctioned. We did things like we brought stunt bike riders out. What would make you think you can make money at that? But honestly speaking, Drag Racing Association of Guam, under the auspices of the Guam Racing Federation, paid all the bills. I personally wrote the check for the first 15 years. I personally got the Royal Orchid Hotel and some other hotels to sponsor, to absolutely just throw rooms at the off-island racers in a way that we could attract off-island competitors and off-island tourists to come watch the events. And it was good. I was the guy in 1980 that had this beautiful idea of a car show. For the Red Cross, we decided to do a motorcade from the Ganya Shopping Center to Skateland in Dededo, and we had over 400 cars. When the first car got to Skateland, the last one was leaving the Ganya Shopping Center. Boy, I tell you, I got a call from the police chief. He said, "What the heck are you guys doing?" my highways are shut down. But anyway, to make a long story short, the racetrack has a great value. However, I'm very disappointed and ashamed that, you know, so many other people are pointing fingers at things that have happened in the last, I guess, 8 or 10 years of the Guam Racing Federation. And it was, I think, as a part of an animal that was created by Gov Guam. The racetrack didn't have money. We had to live and build off rebates, which relied on revenues, on taxes that were going to be paid to the government of Guam. That's how that organism worked out. That's how the Guam Football Association built the soccer fields. Henry Simpson and I and Senator Pangilinan wrote that law that created that. They gave them their first $1 million to meet the FIFA matching funds so they could build that place. Since then, other places have tried to copy it. The Guam Rugby Association, Hal's Angels, you know, they're trying to do things to try to satisfy their maintenance needs because, like a lot of people said, how do you maintain a place like that? Gov Guam can't even maintain a hospital. Why do you think we're in the situation with leased back schools and everything? Have you been to JFK? Compare it to Simon Sanchez. Boy, what a great idea that was. It was expensive, but those schools look pretty darn good. So maybe you guys will have the knowledge and the intelligence to build a hospital like that. I think that's the way to go because the government of Guam can't maintain anything. And I don't know how Parks and Rec or Chamorro Land Trust is going to maintain a park to rent out for 1 day or 1 month or anything. It's just not going to work out. I ran that racetrack maintenance-wise for 15 years, and I can tell you it's very, very expensive. And then to fight off vandalism, fight off thievery, let me tell you, many a nights I spent up there with a shotgun waiting for somebody to cross the fence because I wasn't going to let the people of Guam not be able to drag race on a Friday night because they didn't have a facility because the wires were stolen, the lights were stolen, and so forth. And we've had our share of vandalism. But anyway, to make a long story short, I just wish these things, these questions, and these finger pointing that you guys are pointing at Henry Simpson, the Guam Racing Federation, would have been exercised through your subpoena powers and ask these people their questions. You know, they talk about no audits, no accountability. I beg to differ. For the 15 years I was there, I spent many nights with Doris Flores Brooks and Yuka Cabrera, which you guys all know, when she was in college, and she audited our books. And we accounted for every cubic yard of material, including the spoils, which we couldn't charge Smith Bridge or Hawaiian Rock because it wasn't material they could sell. And some of that material is the material you're talking about, which we brought back and we put down in the ground. Now, it's always been the plan to build the racetrack at a lower level. So that the drag strip that's there now, actually it's illegal. It's got a cliff at the end. You'll kill somebody. I had to go to an HRA because we didn't actually, on our legal property, the way it was designed originally, we didn't have enough of a racetrack, a runoff area, to race a full quarter mile. So I had to convince them, I'm going to raise the slope at the end. It's going to go uphill, so to help in braking. And they approved it, only because myself and a couple other engineers told them that that was the right thing to do. And we got authorized. That's supposed to be a parking lot for the original racetrack, and I convinced Henry Simpson to let us pave it and run on it because we couldn't afford to cut all the material out right away. And I got a letter signed by a judge. I won't mention her name, but she was a judge, and she said, we got to get the racing off the streets. People are dying. So I don't even know if you remember those days when we had a lot of fatalities. We had a lot of problems. But you know what I appreciate about those days? People like you guys, the Joneses, Chrysostomos, the directors of all the agencies, we sat down and found a solution. That's all I ask from you guys. Find a solution. I don't really like this thing about, let's just create a new organization, create the GMA, which I think is honorable, but I don't think that's the way to solve anything. I think you need to sit down, figure out what our problems are, how we can look back at the old law that created the racetrack and say, this is what we're going to do. Because Parks and Rec can't manage that track. Now you're talking about a multi-use park. We were doing that, I guess, illegally for many years. We ran everything like the MMA and everything else, and hot August nights and all kinds of stuff, which kind of not as defined in the law that enabled us to create the racetrack, but we made it work because we needed that revenue to pay the bills to maintain the track. And I think the first 15 years we did a great job. I don't know what happened after I resigned. I was basically bankrupt and I had to walk away. But I'm just asking you guys, please find a solution. This is a good thing for Guam. I had been to Hawaii when they first closed their racetrack, and they asked us what our secret was. And that actual plan that we did for the original Guam Raceway Park is what they're going to do to open this new racetrack this year. So we did something right. We were on the cutting edge. We, the previous legislatures that we had convinced them to open up the Raceway Park. I wish Senator Casper Bauer could be here to talk about that, and maybe some of the attorneys, maybe you guys could subpoena Henry Simpson, because I think that the reason why it went adrift is because when the military buildup was created, there was a greed, there was a need for the rock. Guam EPA wouldn't allow other quarries to be opened up in different places for many, many reasons. The military didn't want to, quarry on their own property because they had other liability issues. But anyway, to make a long story short, Guam has always been a way that we take care of each other. We work to make things happen towards the direction we want to go. And I think that that's what caused the racetrack to go astray, is because of the need. So I'm just asking you guys, please, I'm getting too old. I probably won't be able to race for very many years anymore. I can only build Harleys and hot rods and things of the past and custom jukeboxes. But for our kids and the future generations, I think it's to our benefit to go back to that community solving the problem and say, his industry, tourism industry, parks and rec, they all need us. Because I can tell you, you talk about $2 million that we gave to Cltc, you're not even close. Nowhere near close. And the benefit of that racetrack is far greater than that. We're not going to have this opportunity if we just completely dismantle that whole place. As far as the acreage is concerned, you talk about 200 some acres, you say, oh, you guys only need 150. That was the original government and the legislators that says, take all that acreage. You know why? 2 reasons. They wanted to develop an industrial park up in that area because the land was so unusable. They were thinking even of making deals with companies that wanted to build a warehouse there. Well, if you take out the coral and smooth it out, we'll let you have that property for 10 years, free of charge, just so someday we can get that property back. And that's why the racetrack did that. They talked also about a buffer zone. There originally was supposed to be a general aviation airport between us and Paget Cave. And they needed a safety zone, much like the firing range did. That's now up by Retidian. Now they're talking about closing Retidian because of the firing range. Well, that buffer zone could be well used by the racetrack and be closed during certain parts of the year. So as they do their drills or do general aviation emergencies, it'd be a safety zone. So those are just some questions to your answers. I've got so many more that I'm going to write down, and I'm going to email it to the speaker so she can get a grip of it and maybe share it with you guys of why things happen. Maybe I'm the last Mohican on the GRF board. I kind of been blacklisted because I've spoken up against things that they criticize and this and that, and they criticize Mr. Simpson, they criticize the Cltc, that they're totally against everything. They're probably criticizing Mr. Sablan, saying, well, he's going to wash his hands of it because he doesn't want to be blamed for anything that happens in the future. If somebody dies up there or something happens, we have a catastrophe. But I'm going to tell you that you guys have the power to solve this. Please, just use your open mind. And that's all I'll say. I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that's everyone on the list. Is there anyone that I didn't call that was on the list? Are you signed up for testimony, Mr. Laguardia? Please come forward. Sorry. Please state your name, ma'am. No, neither of you are on the list that I have, so please state your name and just go ahead and proceed.
My name is Marie Barreto, and I am not on any of the boards or anything, but I am a very big advocate of the whole community that has been out there since we were up at Opera Heights. You've heard from the riders, you've heard from the racers, all the different good things that come out. Well, I would be remiss, or it would be remiss of me if I did not speak on behalf of the family, because that was my biggest impact in my involvement. My brothers were racing. I was up there with my father. My mom would come up, bring the kids, and then she would go back. If you walked over to the track, and I know some of you have come up and you've seen the tents, you've seen where the parents are there, the moms are there with all the little kids. You've seen how they are in charge of of all the food, of taking care of the kids. And when I was up there helping, and I would be involved in, I was like the pit boss during Smoking Whales. One of the things that the moms would always tell me is, you know what, Marie, this is the best thing because I can come out and enjoy my kids racing. I can come out and be a part of this whole thing instead of just, them going and doing their own thing, doing their fishing or doing their whatever. It was a big family affair. You'll see all, and it wasn't just your rich people. It wasn't just the Howleys. It wasn't just any race out there. It was a big community of Guam. We had many Chamorro families out there. We had many Filipino families. We had many American families. Military families would come out there. In fact, they're a big proponent of it. They love it out here because they finally have a place where their kids could race. We even had a general. Was it a general? The guy who had his son's race, he bought a motorcycle. An admiral, and he would come out, and he would just be under the tent with his boys because he watched how his kids mingled with the other kids out there. That park out there, because it became a park, was so important to the whole island. When we had the trench activities, that was amazing to see all the kids out there with their parents and the grandparents running around in that obstacle course. When they had the concerts, Smoking Wheels was unbelievable because everybody had their niche and the kids would love it. It's getting to a point where we're losing activities and places for our kids to enjoy. And that's going to be a major, major problem for us. I'm going to join Joey and Eddie and say, please, talk with these guys, talk with the people, and let's make it work. We need to open that place up. I started mountain biking, and one of the things that I enjoyed was riding around with other women, other girls out there. There was a big camaraderie we developed. But now it's closed. I mean, I could go to Leo Palace, but, you know, and I can ride out there, but I already broke my ankle out there, so I'm not looking forward to that. It's important, and I'm just pleading with you, from a mother, from a sister, of boys who love the sport. Save our park for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barreto. Mr. Laguana.
Si Diyos masi. Pabe, quanto stalo gini fino imanenata. Quanto tu silo qui, i dias mit na tautagis, ni manananga. Uhungok, tori testigo gini, lamona na poengi. Uhungok, guasya manat miti, na manyaw gi, ki edzo na kutsinadas, ni hakas matsogi, lo mahutso me matanya. Ko enau, minalago na, si Zeus, zane man tautauta. Esta admiti na mangi cek, purasti siya mamaril kokort. Uhungok put midzon, millions, lo para toza, para iman tautauta. Manggagaw talo mas. Fiwa maemo ki man membro siya ki komisyon ni Tano Manenata. Tresa siya. Lo man mesngun sa man matak nga. Maniluhu, manenahu. Zan hamzo ginahusog taw-tawgahan. Ti malalagaw sa politika. At timanyo zo napabesangan. Ihapaw sesenti. Zan hapa dinansi. Fiwa tasangan nasi palabras inaformalik. Mala za tafanaformalik. Loko magay na tasotsogi zi i minaulik. Gininihali palabra i minaulik. Estigi siya punto po di kultura. Ikustumbrin iminamalaw. Malalag no si palabra, tayo mamalaw. Kung para tafan tayo mamalaw, ni pata tsogwi, intingo, nagwahali natsi. Who comprende ano? Zahu supporti, esti nalay. Law, respeta, iman membro siya, ki komisyon, itano manenata. Manggagagaw este siya, mas tano, kini manisisita. Manggagagaw para debat dia, pura debat di, zaman mamadedesi iman taw-tawta. Kumugay si defunto angit gini. Defunto Ed Beneventi. Defunto Jesse Rivera. Defunto David Sablan. Defunto Katz Joe Peredo. Si Kek Matingan. Sempia parewa kwentus mamami. Husupotisti, husupotti torusamdo. Maniluhu. Lo, hasu, i para inajuda lo ki iman taw-tawta. Mga mamalefa, y intencionnya put fin esti nalai. Si Jus Masi, gehilo senadora, na un menti i hafa matso gwenya esti na tonu ni report sa me ekunguku para papa jau hungu keju siya isi nangan mo gitutuhun. Ni me zon siya na kepli, jani ba imalabida ni matsogwi gihulo. Mamentia loki gwini, ebidensya na kana 9 gientritori 10 gini, manasaw na gano. Unliya talo. Haji siya gitatetta manggefsaga gini siya. Taka nataja sa lapi. Tamana na masasanga na midzon. Gastan niya, wihi. Pura jo nagastu. Gini ni magwaduk edzi tano ni mamabendi. Za macalani loki, tati gwi. Za para mahucu matan niya. Hutungwa na makalam titinis ti sa put politika. Botasyon. Hutungwa. Ti malalagu tu para senador para apa na posisyon gano. Pabena hungu ka iman tau-tau ta. Nahagas mamafababa iman tau-tau ta. Husupoti todo samzu. Maniluhu. Lo munga magago para debat di. Sa angin para tomorrow pura debat di. Tana para no. Esta malofan ilinati. Lo mala zata regla zata ajuda iman tau-tau ta. Ta tsogi ginasgas fan. Manggagagaw mas. Tagin sa tagwini. Maulik na usasangan gifinota. Kosaki o maspias ti do matransladozi. Sti siya huzong gini gitateta. Iti makomprendi finota. Manhaga sa sti siya gini gitanota. Zangin matutsina gwinay zan mizo ni este na tano na. Ketungo ifinu itano. Pado sino comprendi. Pat ke comprendi. Don't respeta ham. Respeta iman malofan siya na magas. Si Buddha ni ha wifi esti. Para iman mamala siya na tempo. Sauno jo loki gi ya iman maprotetesta gi papa gi za adulu. Zaman gaya i antini spiritu ni manay nata. Gizagwaho, zanedzo siya ni manonosta. E qual è a famas pabisangan lo? Por favor, respeta i comisión. Legnia na 5 años, tutun gi eno. Unga manggagaw mas. 5 años pues an matu talo China jo. Malaza ta considera talo. Tali nai i kapasidad niya. Kumu mana sinya. Za ufanggagan na i ambos banda. Todi dos banda. Ngan. I carrera importante. Actividad importante. Lo imanananga 10 mit mas man importante. Fiwa maemok iman membro siya gi komisyon hu popular no siya babinatungam zo attendi state trace na hunta gi panan dos sa hu lili ilinatsi. Man ma nanai hujung tano niti ma rehistra. After mano no. Pes ibangku talo mananai kebli on unregistered lands. Lo incessida ano. gracias a Dios, nagagi si Matao Dave, si Matao Earl, dan si Jessica, loki si palaan mismo si Jessica, matoto guihi. Dan ematugi atok tukjo sa legnasin, sa nahu. Ombis guahu ni mismo guahu tumutugi todo siya isinanganinnya. Just tapaguman ng gajo. Hutuna gue si Jessica. Sagay, animo para o fatatsong gini jo sangan ipinitinya. Tahu sasangan ipinitin ni man tau talokwe ni hagas manan nga. Taja lai fio magan ko lobbyist jo lo timan lalabi jo lacha palabraso edzo man ajujuda edzi tumata tujo sa esta I fide English ne kalan setutung ginol esta usaji dankulu siya na palabras no katajam jo put parabek emphasis ipuntok ko sa incomprendi isasangan no. Pesusupot tisti ilay 287 law. Gini pati gini ili inatanuhungan gis gi letra C gi section 2. I mean ide. Edi leknya gini participation rent may ini kita biar inatanu. Na suwa ji meja na xiao. Na si guru na ofam nhau no ki participation rent. So no jo lokwe gi Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, I commission itano loki iniman ma tulitano niya. Ja enigi I kontratan mami ja nigida ana entsetsegi jem pipilan eno. Ina siguguru na kada hapa ginanan niya siya na fanyatsagi iman tau-tauta. Mungkin aja pada 25 centimos peso un peso siya. 10 pesos mas siya. Ata ni ginaskas I pareo na tratamento para minaulek. Mungkin aja para ponhutsuma matao mo. Halia siya 15 años gue mama kilo ha. Manggi cek I komisyon imanenata. Hutuna si Joey Cruz loki, kagis Joey gi atsatsagi mano ni nas sinyonya, gizay timekeeper giulo gila gi. Giza giulo pes mali naman na aktu direktor sa menhalum sa tungo ikinalamtin. Lo, hugagago loki ajudon mizo na inain na siya empleo niya para o nasiguro naman matsotsogi din nansi na hati po pinila na siya giulo. Ang gimanahalom todi kepli para ufan halom gikinarera sa pestaja slapi legnya. Pura tax free. Esta na malofan monajan. Lo maila sa tatutun tanapanggana iman tau-tau ta bastek. Man mafababa. Bastek neno. Da mga maanya put politika sa mamigay niya 10,000 naman tau-tau ta. Mambobota. Kiniesti siya. Mita. Sinataalo. Lo. Hasu. Maniluhu da maninahu. Amso ni mamatatsong genaw le. Tunga na takakang tu botasyon. Dia 3 de agosto. Está naong 60 dias para matsogi plano. Muling niya matsogi plano antes de eleksyon. Sa matsotsonig esti sa put eno na rason dyan di pusiya I politika. Taganawa, no? Kada hafan na asunto pad suheto. Matsutsuli edun na oportunidad para o magana minalago niya sa tempon botasyon. Lo comince qui dinanzi da niminaulik. Gas in sensiamo, ma lì pubblico na onsosogi dinanzi. E niki onru eno, onru. E già, e questa hokku gini tinigehu gini lo e zitalo ngan mi mentia masasangan na gastuju para ma regla esta gaigi sta I infrastructure gui sta gaigi para ma penta azu taba na gasgas di tipo famangasta talu millions gi mi sha lo di bidi jan di bana ja rispetta I commission siya na membro sa guaha maulik abogao gui si Attorney Miller huli izo na tauto staba zu atetendi huntanya jama lohti izo na tauto lo hu disesia na komualili na maulik talo mona mana suah ejigi problema gini kumumali menaulik mana suah sa para makubri sa matsogi kutsinadas lo Marie tunga Marie si Joey popoti todo samzo lo rispetta nei I hafa minalogonia I commission John Pacinciadia Teresa gui lo todo gi tres nei man fit mi inenginia para man tau talai e digi no na idusha donkuluna rispetto sa huli zamana gagasgas ilinati bula linati lo magagatsa mona za makuririhi edzigi za esti pago nigagi gi record na ma supina magai deno siana taugis sa tipata hutsuma matata za pata sokta zu megge mamatina salapi wi za debi di tanah ma tipurafa lo debi di ta tsogi I hafa amiresi na taugis. Taza pet sunat gini o pupunta lo kumu ma investiga siya na siguro na matsogi I hafa minalagonya sigun ilay tautog para iguahan para esti islata. Kasi na famas san sintaza mas maniluhu hamzo loki jamzu tautogwahan anen mentiu zungi It's a fresh pack. Bibak wahan. I bibak wi. Na sua zi bibi sa I bibak sa Espanyol ta tu. Alok. Masya hafa tuna wahan. Ezgi tuna zi tatuna zi utu tuna ha. Ti ezgi guian na tuna. Lo edza lai pega gi corazon mizo maneluhu. Sa ezgi usesenti. Sa para iman famangono zani famagonia gi mamaila na tempo iman mamaila na man tauta man samuruta sa esta maris pepeta gi ulama menti di meeting nigap imoron hen edzigi endangered species pude golf course gi ulu hita man tatazasta hita man endangered kasi nafamas an sintaza mas Dankulan si Jus Mas. Está aqui.
Jesus Masi, Senor Laguatnya. And we're going to have to take a 1-minute break to reset the audio. For it has an hour limit, so you made it right on time. Jesus Masi. Okay, so we'll take a 1-minute break and reset audio.